And P1 is back in the building. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to this, I should say, experience. Because damn, StreamYard has quietly changed a lot since the last time I've used it for a stream. But anyways, welcome to this little bit of a stream. Nobody expected this, but here we are. And I am joined by two great people who have been followers of the P1 journey for quite a long time. I am joined with the one and only, first off, the House of Chayton.
Glad to be here. Glad to be on the channel. It's been a minute. I can't remember the last time you did a stream. I know it's been a few years.
Yeah,
4 years.
God damn.
Yeah, almost 4 years. Yeah, wow. I feel old. I feel old just thinking about that.
You feel old. Ah,
I'm older than both of y'all. Shut your whole mouths up. Anyway.
I wasn't referring to
and with
you.
the House
I'm
of
referring to you
Chayton,
this year.
and with the House of Chayton comes the one and only J Vance Legit, Jordy Scow, the man of many names.
The man of many names with many great, faces and all. But yeah, the Jordy Scow name is basically a stage name. Real name, Jordan Little. And I'm glad to be here on this wonderful evening with two great colleagues right here who are great friends. Despite our ups and downs, we are back in business. And business is fixing to pick up. You dig?
That is correct. And here we are. And I think that we, considering that this in a lot of ways is my wrestling channel, I figured that we would talk about some things that were in the wrestling spectrum. Particularly, we're going to talk about, you kind of see it in the title and you kind of see it a little bit behind us. We're going to talk a little bit about the company that is known as AEW. Now, AEW has known for being a little interesting kind of story, as it was set to shake the world when it came across in 2019. Had its first pay-per-view event with Double or Nothing in 2019, one of the better wrestling pay-per-view events of the decade. And things have quietly taken the turn. If you've read the title, yes, we're going to talk about the decline of AEW. And there's a lot of different areas that we are going to jump into on this little bit of a discussionary episode. And I think that I will just kind of straight off go first. And I think one of the biggest declines that one of the reasons that contributed to the current state of AEW, and for a company that has All Elite Wrestling as its name, this first reason is going to kind of sound a little bit ironic, but that reason that I'm going to go for my reason number one is going to be an overemphasis on wrestling. Now, don't get me wrong, wrestling very much is an important part of any wrestling company. Is going to be the action that takes part in the ring. But there is a problem when a lot of the stuff that happens in ring, there's nothing to build towards what happens in the ring. We can think of many times on AEW television where there has been a hyped up dream match, but for the casual viewer, for someone who doesn't watch AEW on the regular basis, will not be able to really understand about why these two people are going at it, or what is the significance of why this match is a supposed dream match.
Case in point, Vikingo versus Omega.
Or me versus you.
We're talking about wrestling, you schmuck. Anyway.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Still waiting for you to get 2K25. You are getting it for the PS5, right?
I may.
You better,
what
you
I'm
bitch.
saying is,
Anyway.
here's the thing. With our previous experience, and yes, folks, I'm going to shoot right from the hip here. Yes, me and this son of a bitch have had problems, in the past. Yes, we went back and forth with each other.
How dare you call my mom a bitch? No, I'm kidding.
But there's one thing that everyone has always wanted, and that is the epic collision, no pun intended, between me and Chayton. And to be honest with you, that is a dream match in and of its own right. And I feel like, if it was for Wrestle Kingdom or WrestleMania, Final Battle, or even, All Out or All In, or, All In and All Out, then yes, it would probably make a box office.
Because let's be honest here, that would be considered something of that nature, because it's something building up. Like, for example, like to go with a counter argument or a counter act to what would be considered a dream match. CM Punk and Seth Rollins just had their match recently on Raw. That would be considered dream because it's been built basically since Punk came back.
Yep.
And it would have happened at WrestleMania if Punk didn't get injured, but it's been building for the last year. And that's why they decided what would be the best match, the biggest box office match to put on the debut episode of Netflix. Because let's be honest here, I have no interest in Solo Sikoa. I like Roman Reigns, but I have no interest in Solo Sikoa. So the biggest box office
guy.
Huh?
You're a Jacob Fatu guy.
Yeah. Let's
not forget the fact that, yes, over a decade ago, before Punk departed the company and before he departed from wrestling entirely, yes, Seth Rollins and Punk did face each other in the past, but that was only for a brief storyline that was going to be with him versus the Shield. But
Seth was a different person back then in regards,
back then.
Yeah.
And the thing is, WWE never considered it a dream match. In fact, nobody considered it a dream match. It was just, a first. But for a dream match of this caliber, it only comes down to how the story is built between these two characters and whether they respect each other or they don't like each other in general. And
another comparison of that would be Undertaker and Sting. Technically, they had wrestled before in WCW when he was known as Meek Marcalis.
Yeah.
So, technically, if we want to be technical here, he they have had a match before, but it was under different. So the reason why people are like it's a dream match is because really the real reason why they wanted that match is because they have similar character arcs, like they're
Yeah,
dark brooding characters.
and you know
Like,
what? Here's another thing too we forgot to mention: the fact that not just with storytelling, but with their characters of what they've went through, as the characters and not just the wrestlers in general. Because
now have
and in fact, here's another thing that I also want to point out: the only person that did not want that dream match out of all of us was Vince McShithead.
yeah. Now to counter argue, to be devil's advocate, because I love being devil's advocate. To be devil's advocate for the AEW aspect, they have delivered what you would consider dream matches. Case in point, Bryan Danielson versus Will Ospreay.
Okay, that right there, I will agree that is a dream match. But here's my counter to that: the build up between those two was not that good. I mean, you can say the match was great because yes, they could perform a wrestling clinic, but the problem is making it believable as to why we should have this match. Like I remember WrestleMania 21, Kurt Angle versus Shawn Michaels, probably match of the night for most people. And guess what?
Definitely.
How they built themselves and the storyline, it was very believable. They didn't trash each other. I mean, sure, they parodied off a little bit, but they did have a bit of respect for what they've accomplished, in the build up to WrestleMania. And when they finally had that match, that's where it took the whole damn show. And that's and Bryan Danielson, yes, in ring they can be a good, a good match to steal the show, but
in a lot of ways it was.
But the problem was the build up to it wasn't even that good.
And to also
not only that, and I can give you another example. Just recently when they on Dynamite when they had the first Will Ospreay and Ricochet match.
Oh my God, Ricochet! Don't even get me started on that guy.
Now, don't get me wrong, Ricochet now is definitely in a lot of ways. I feel like so far his AEW run has been a flop, but but if we're being realistic, they put him not so far after he signed. One of his first matches was with Ospreay. That match should have been a much bigger deal than what it was, especially because Ospreay was international champion at the time, and we were getting this big international championship match on Dynamite, but there was no build to this matchup other than maybe one segment.
Exactly.
And here's the other thing with Ricochet. This is why
I'll let you go first.
Yeah, his signing ain't a big deal.
Oh my God, no, it's not, because I mean,
let me finish, you schmuck. You said let me finish. I was giving my point.
I was going to add on to your point and say that it was.
Go ahead. I'll let you add on.
It wasn't really a big deal because every time where they have this thing on X, formerly known as Twitter, they have this thing where this guy is all elite. Well, here's the thing. I mean, does this guy draw a crowd? Does this guy draw money?
Hell, not even Adam Copeland can fucking draw people in.
Oh my God! And I saw this.
Or excuse me, sorry, Cope.
Oh, I can't cope with that either. I mean, like,
but
here's the thing.
Okay, go ahead.
I couldn't. Here's the thing. I don't know what the whole big deal is, but I know there was this little joke around the internet saying that when Edge came back, I mean, the crowds was not being as big, but when he went to AEW, it was the same thing. Well, here's the thing. I think it's the wrong place at the wrong time kind of deal. I mean, it's not his fault that the crowd's not coming because, I mean, let's face it, the two companies with their head honchos at the time make bad decisions. And when they make these bad decisions, they draw a crowd away and not draw them in.
On this day, I see no fans. Anyway,
there was this great quote. There was this great quote in wrestling, and it's so true, where if your company is hot, you can do the most wrong things that you can do, but you will draw as many people as you can. But when your company has no momentum, you can do everything right, but still not draw any people.
That is true. That is true. I mean,
that is so true.
I think I kind of remember that during the days of the final days of World Class Championship Wrestling. Like they were, I mean, their crowds back in the day were pretty great, but when they were, starting to dwindle because of the heavy losses they endured with the family, you could tell that company was going to be bought out anytime at any moment, and it's
Same thing with the AWA, for example, when they tried to,
the AWA,
they were so against doing what WWE been doing, and by the time they were trying to do it, by that point, the AWA was fucking just on its deathbed. Basically, there was nothing they could do to fucking survive. And what I was going to
was
say
a little
earlier
too
about
late.
Ricochet was that the problem with Ricochet signing was that when Ricochet went to WWE, right, he was unique. A lot of guys couldn't do what Ricochet does. When he went to AEW, like you could put a blindfold on me, put up all the people on the fucking AEW roster, tell me to throw it at something of someone who I think is like, does or Ricochet, right? I throw it, I hit maybe Ray Phoenix because he's still technically contracted.
oh my
And
god,
I undo the blindfold and I look, I'm like, hey, that guy does things like Ricochet, but better. Ricochet is not unique anymore. He is not the standout. You got guys like Vikingo. You got guys like fucking Action Andretti. You got guys like fucking who else? I'm trying to think. Hell, even though Darby Allin is more of a crash dummy, but he does some crazy spots. There's so many different people.
the Mick Foley of AEW, in my opinion.
Yeah. But like my
Yeah.
point is that everybody, a good amount of those people in that company do things to the extent or better than Ricochet. Like Vikingo, even though he's not with AEW, but Vikingo is more of a high risk taker and he's getting injured more so nowadays. But Vikingo's a bigger high risk taker than fucking Ricochet ever was. That's a fact. Nobody like Ricochet is not like the talk of the town anymore. And I'm not just saying because of his run in WWE, but just in general.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. It's not the fact that he's not the talk of the town. It's the fact that he's not as full as as he should have been. Like when he was in WWE. Like let's not wind the clock back about a couple years, like maybe a year prior before the existence of AEW. Like with the fourth and final season of Lucha Underground, you knew there was going to be changes made. For the first 3 seasons, when he was known as Prince Puma, he was practically the face of that promotion, of that Lucha brand, and he was actually pretty damn good. Sure, a lot of people couldn't recognize him, who he was under the mask, but if you could look at his matches in the indie scene before Lucha Underground, and of course the tattoo, of his symbol.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like I didn't know Matanza was Jeff Cobb until I did some research.
You see, the thing is, freaking Ricochet was white freaking hot, when Lucha Underground was around. And when he left, after that whole thing in the season 3 finale, if you haven't watched it, I suggest you do if you get a chance. It was, it was going to be big changes for him. He'd go back to his, Ricochet name. He'd be back, and then he'd be in NXT, WWE. But nowadays, it's not like it's like his in-ring style is still good as it is in the last decade. But the problem is he's not that big of a deal as some people want to make him out to be.
Yeah, and so Paige. Yeah, I was gonna say I want to relay it back to Paige for his thoughts on this and the continuation of the emphasis of wrestling.
But yeah, well, I think in a lot of ways you guys really continued the conversation, but it's just in a lot of ways there are matches that need much more bigger build to it that don't have the build that they need. And like in a lot of ways,
angle.
In a lot of ways, in some ways, it comes off as desperate as we're trying to pop a rating. And in a lot of ways, that backfires even more. And that's why, in a lot of ways, a match, don't get me wrong, what goes on in the ring is important. But what's just as important, if not more important, than everything that goes on outside of the ring that leads up to the match.
Yeah, because you see, here's the thing. I can't even watch AEW without feeling, uncomfortable with what they're going to do on the program. Like whether it's on their Dynamite show or Collision. Like, here's the thing. On my channel, I used to live react to AEW, Rampage and Collision. Had I made it through the year 2024 to react to Rampage, I would have reacted to all the episodes from its first to its last. And you can't say that everyone in the wrestling community has done that. But still, I can't even watch the product without feeling like it's gonna bore me without the lack of storytelling to build up to these matches. Like, okay, yes, mid-carders, yes, I can understand that. You're trying to make a mid-story, that's not big of a deal for the big main stars. I get that. But what the problem is, Tony Khan with this, company, he tries to make sure that everybody, can wrestle for as long as they want, but then it also comes to question who else is left in the back in catering and who's going to be on the ROH tapings.
And here's one other thing I want to add to that. The best story that they have done, AEW that is, the two best stories they've done in the last few years has been the Timeless Tony Storm Mariah May story and the Swerve Hangman Page storyline, the feud. But also look at it from this point of view. Look at what's going on now. Mariah May yes, she's still champion, but she's not really doing anything too relevant. Tony Storm is going through either an amnesia storyline, even though I still think it's just her playing the part of Tony Storm from a few years ago. And then Swerve is fucking feuding now with Ricochet and Bobby Lashley, and Hangman Page is over here feuding with fucking past his prime, baldy Christopher Daniels.
Oh, come on.
Christopher Daniels, yes, he was great back then, but come on now. It's like he's a fucking he is nothing more than a jobber at this point. And Hangman Page, a former AEW World Champion and had one of the best feuds of his life in the last year, is feuding with basically at this point a nobody. And I know that's harsh to say, but
that's
just when's the last time you remember a pivotal Christopher Daniels moment? I could tell you when he won the tag team titles 5 years ago almost.
Wait. No. That was Scorpio Sky and Kazarian.
Oh, well, then there's no memories of Daniels then. Damn. I just see, that's how much I care about that tag division back at that time, because they fucking I couldn't
thing we have to get into, because that has to be another reason why their company isn't as good as it should be. The tag team.
Oh division. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep, but let us continue forward. So I gave my first reason. Jordan, what's your first reason?
Okay, well, you're probably going to be shocked when I do this one. My first reason: the departure of CM Punk.
That would be mine too.
Oh, and I guess that means
that was on my list. So
that was I combined it with the brawl-in footage. That's because I know, Jordan, that's what turned you off of AEW. After that,
it's not just that, Jaden, and I'm going to have to explain it as I go along.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to 2021, and yeah, we all remember that year in our community. But for wrestling,
oh yeah,
it was a different story. Back when Rampage was becoming white freaking hot, the first, AEW show on television for 1 hour every Friday. The week after its first episode, we got an amazing return after 7 long years. CM Punk, he comes back with, the Cult of Personality, the original Cult of Personality theme, not the remix version of today's CM Punk.
I don't hate that that it's a re-recording. I don't hate it.
I'm not saying
well, it's also they also, the main reason it was remade was so that because if they were to use the original version, for some reason Living Color was not going to be able to get money from it.
Yeah, I mean that is a shame, but anyway,
yeah,
so yeah, when CM Punk first arrived, you knew things were finally going to heat up and be better for All Elite Wrestling. I mean, people like me would think Vince McMahon was probably ripping his toupee off his head. Then again, maybe that's his real hair. I don't know, and I don't care. But still, we were all. I mean, I was shocked when I reacted to this. Me and Brandon, we were just watching this, and everybody in the building in Chicago, they were marking out. Even one guy in the crowd was crying that CM
I'll
Punk.
even admit I was watching it, and I'm bringing this up because it connects with that. I'll admit I was watching while I was at work at the time, and I had it on my phone because this was like a moment. I even though again it wasn't advertised, it was just something that a lot of people basically said it was going to happen, and and I had it on the fucking my phone, and I'll even admit myself I cried a little bit when that happened. I'm not afraid to admit that because that's one of the men I've idolized over the last probably decade plus.
But the reason why people were prepared a little bit prepared is because rumors were spreading that he was returning. But the problem is people didn't know where he was going to return. I mean, he could have returned to anywhere: WWE, MLW, NJPW, or AJPW. I mean, or
I know
even,
Osprey was calling him out back then too. He wanted a match with him and
but still.
Kenta.
Well, Penta. Well, we'll have to talk about that later.
Kenta, not Penta.
Kenta. Oh, never mind then.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then again, both of those guys are good wrestlers in their own right. Luchador and a Japanese strong style. That could be a good match too. But anyway,
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, we need a story to build up between those two as well. So CM Punk, when he came back, everybody was excited. I was excited. I mean, everybody that I knew were excited that CM Punk had returned to wrestling and that he had, come to AEW. And everybody knows that with CM Punk, there are no restrictions for him because he knows how to cut a promo, how to wrestle in the ring, and how to do anything that will draw your eyeballs to the screen. I mean, he is like what his song says. He is a cult of personality. And when he came to AEW, everything looked like as if, WWE and Vince McMahon had finally met their match because they fucked up. They fucked up big time when 7 years ago, in 2014 when they couldn't treat a staph infection. He left, and then he got fired on his wedding day with AJ Lee. And then, everything looked like it was going to be better for AEW. But then we get to a problem. 1 year after he had just signed with the company. AEW All Out 2022, and this was the match with him and Jon Moxley. Now, I have reacted to their first bout on AEW Dynamite, and I was disappointed. I mean, they held this so much hype for their one-on-one match to find out who is the real AEW World Champion. They couldn't save it for pay-per-view, but they put it on TV for free. But guess what, people? Nothing in life is for free for action in regards to this, because this wasn't a 20-minute SmackDown drag-out. It was just, it was just a payday. And that was it. But the pay-per-view, on the other hand, it had the better match. Why they didn't save it for that, I have no idea. But hey, that's Tony Khan for you. But that's not the worst part. The worst part after that was when somebody after the media scrum asked CM Punk about a question. Then it had something to do with Colt Cabana, and we know Punk. He just got through a hellacious match with Jon Moxley. He was bleeding, and he was he was hurt. He got injured during the match, of course. And Punk, I mean, this was the wrong place at the wrong time, and he started off this rant where he not only owned the Young Bucks for getting in his business, because he called themselves, like unresponsible EVPs, which they are, which that is another reason, but I will get to that later. Then there's also the fact where after Punk was done talking, he pretty much buried Colt Cabana. He buried the Young Bucks. Do I think that was necessary? No, because again, this is a business. I mean, you got to be professional. If you want to handle your things, personally, take it backstage with no cameras and nobody else to see it. But then again, like I said, I don't think I can blame Punk. He was feeling irritated. He was tired, and he was working with children. His words, not mine. But
I'm hurt,
still,
I'm old, I'm fucking tired, and I work with fucking children.
Yeah. But then after he was done on the media scrum, backstage, there was a brawl that ensued in the back. And the Bucks tried to attack CM Punk. Kenny Omega tried to get Punk's dog out of the way. Now, at the time, I was really ashamed of freaking Omega, but then I realized I know he even explained it. Omega did. He was trying to get the dog out of the way from getting hurt. Even though when they barged the door open, the dog got hurt a little bit in the face, but still. Beggars can't be choosers for the Young Bucks, especially when they're super Dick City, of course. Yeah, and guess what happened next? They still got their asses kicked by a man who was already hurt. So that just goes to show you that was one of the reasons why CM Punk left, because these guys are obnoxious, freaking jerk-off little assholes who think they can run a wrestling company, but at the end of the day, it just proves CM Punk's point that he was telling the truth about what's been going on with that freaking
and the idea that also that they did not want to meet with Punk the following year to try to have some peaceful resolution, because look at it this way. Punk and Roman had fucking issues. Rollins and Punk had issues, but they understand business. They understand that their real life issues can make some good money for them.
Exactly.
And
like remember back in the day with Matt Hardy, Edge, and Lita?
Or even Brett and Sean. Brett and Sean, for
there you
example.
go. See, I mean, here's the
thing. Do you think also, like, look at it this way? If Bret Hart could actually wrestle still, like maybe not as good as him from 20 years ago, but even a half good Bret Hart would still be better than some of these guys. But if Bret Hart could go and they and you know, all the animosity between him and Bill Goldberg, that would be a that could be a WrestleMania, maybe not main event in 2025, but that would be one of the marquee matches. Let's just be honest here. Do you think people wouldn't want to go see it just because, and the story, you ended my career, like, you know, they like mixing real life into that feud would have made money.
I think that would actually be good, because again, at the end of the day, this is a wrestling business where we have to put our personal issues aside for the common goal, and that is to you know, not only tell a story but to make money and you know, and also give people their money's worth. And
like, could you imagine also, like sidetrack here, like we've all had our issues with one another in the past, right? Could you imagine that if there was like a YouTube fight club, and everybody who didn't like each other back in the day or even today, right? I guarantee you, we could all make fucking money, just like even if it's like a shoot fight, like we're just beating the shit out of each other, but we're not trying to kill each other. But like that's what I'm saying. These like, I would like, if me and Jordan were fucking, if someone told me that, you know, hey, I'm gonna give you $5,000 to fight Jordan, and and all that, and I'll be like, all right, I got it, you know, because I can be like
that, but okay,
huh?
I'd go higher with that with the money, but
I'm a cheap whore. $5,000 could give me probably 6 months off my rent. So I'd be like, just to fight, like for 5 minutes, I'd be like, sign me up.
And you know
my
what?
point is though, is that like, yeah, go ahead.
But back to the subject, because there's so many different, in a lot of ways, there's a lot of different arcs, I think, to the CM Punk and AEW story. Because one of the things that, and we kind of, I don't know if we've really gotten to that point yet, but really, the biggest thing that kind of got everybody, I think, in a lot of ways, was when everybody got suspended from Brawl Out. The first people that came back were the Elite.
Yeah,
and also I think that also had to do with the fact that Punk was injured. I wonder if Punk wasn't injured.
I think Punk was too hurt to even wrestle for the next few months. And here's the thing: CM Punk is not as young as he used to be. In fact, a lot of us are not as young as we used to be. Let's be real here. But at the end of the day, it just goes to show you that not everybody is immortal, you know, or invincible. But I want to get to a point where we're going to like fast forward the next few months where we get to the premiere of AEW Collision. Okay. Now Tony Khan makes the new announcement that we're going to have a new 2-hour weekly show. And you know, to me as a wrestling fan, if it was on Saturday nights, I'd be like, okay, this ought to be interesting. Because, I mean, after all, Saturday Night Wrestling used to be a traditional basis for the casual wrestling fan back in the old school eras. And
Saturday night's main event, WCW Saturday night, you know.
And then there's also, you know, in my personal favorite, Ring of Honor, you know, like when they were on Saturdays, you know, on
Shotgun Saturday night as well for some of the
Velocity.
Like Velocity.
But still, this is what happens. After CM Punk comes back, you know, this is what he did. Tony wanted to make a secondary show, which, you know, is another major show right next to Dynamite, as if it were, you know, CM Punk's show and not, you know, and then he'd leave Dynamite for the Elite and, you know, and Kenny Omega. But the thing is, all that he was doing was delaying the inevitable. I'm just going to be realistic here. He was delaying the inevitable of what was going to happen, because we all know, because considering the Bucks' reputation, and I mean, whether you work with the Bucks or not is irrelevant. It's how we not only have heard online, but we've heard through other valuable sources about what they are like backstage. And believe it or not, their egos are just as big as their zip codes, both of two different addresses since they live separately, I think. But anyway, so after, you know, because here's the thing, I went to a Collision show. I thought it was good, you know, especially with CM Punk and Ricky Starks in the main event, and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat as a, you know, special guest referee. I mean, can't get much better than that. Then we've got, and now we went from Brawl Out to Brawl In, okay? So before the All In pay-per-view in London happened, and this was like 2 years ago, Jungle Jackoff Prairie Dog, aka Jack Perry,
the GOAT.
He wanted to do, shut your ass up. He wanted to do a spot, like a what? Oh, the scapegoat. Yeah, that's
the scapegoat.
Yeah, anyway, he wanted to do an angle or a spot, you know, where he wanted to go through a glass window of a car, and everybody was telling him no. And then when he was being unreasonable, from what we all understand from Punk's side of the story, in fact, his story is even more accurate now because of the Brawl Out footage, which we'll get to in just a minute.
And the interview he did with, I think, Ariel Helwani.
MMA Hour, that's it.
Yeah.
And this is what else happens. CM Punk, he's trying to say, look, I mean, if you want to do this, you can do it on Wednesday and try to see if you can do a spot there, but not here. In fact, here's the thing. When we have the rental cars, we have it for the boys. And when we have these rental cars, we have to make sure that they're back in order, you know, back in perfection. I mean, if we want to use a stunt car, we can use a stunt car, but let's not use a rental car. And you know what, Jack, he sounded reasonable according to Punk after that. But what does the cocksucker do? On the freaking, 0 hour of All In, he does this little spot where he's going to, in the FTW rules match for the FTW title, by the way, a title that has, again, I'm kind of glad it is done for, because, again, it could have been one of the next hardcore titles, but it didn't really amount to anything. No offense to Taz, but still, he could use that title to make his own FTW wrestling show if he wanted to. But still, so there's the spot during the 0 hour, and he was going to put, Hook, ironically Taz's son, through the glass, which I think Jack Perry went through the glass himself, I believe. And
he did.
Yeah, before he went through the glass, he taps on the window. Real glass, cry me a river. And we all, and you know what? For anyone who didn't know, that was towards CM Punk. And he finally went through the glass like he wanted to. And backstage, if you haven't watched the Brawl Out footage or listened to CM Punk's interview with Ariel Helwani on the MMA Hour, it pretty much speaks volumes as to why CM Punk left. I mean, and you know what's so sad? The sad thing is CM Punk despite having a storyline where he was the real world champion, that was his last match against freaking, Samoa Joe. And after that opening bout, he left, and we never heard or saw him again. The only mention of him was on AEW Saturday Collision, and when I reacted to this, I was not pleased with how they handled business like that, especially with the way how
I'm in fear for my life.
Yes, I feared for my life. If you saw him in the freaking footage of the brawling footage, he was freaking like over the monitor going like as if he was in a playpen, like. And the thing is, all CM Punk did was scream at him and just, yell at him. I mean, and the fact that it makes you fear for your life. I mean, like, dude, first of all, you don't get out more just to know that.
Like Jordan and I've screamed at each other, but have we feared for each other's lives? No.
No way. If I feared for my life, then I'd be having new sets of underwear right now.
Mm-hmm.
But that was it. And after your CM Punk's
so
departure,
yeah, like that's what
I was gonna finish right here real quick. After CM Punk's departure,
okay, go ahead.
Everything had become very complicated. A lot of people were divisive regarding watching the product or even showing up at the buildings. Plus, if you look at the freaking attendance and all that, even after he left, it has dwindled, and that is one of the many reasons why AEW is in rapid decline as it is.
Well, I've even said that, Punk, like all. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say because but just not only that, but Dynamite really has kind of been Dynamite. Dynamite really hasn't changed so much from the Collision era of CM Punk, but Collision has definitely took a dip. It's only
not
in ratings, but
not
just
the
in
Nitro
general
of AEW.
content.
It's pretty much the Thunder of AEW.
Even then, like look at how AEW has changed with their logos and their fucking stage design. They are literally trying to become WWE Light. And that's what. And look at it this way. I'll put you at this point of view. Look at what happened with TNA when they tried to be WWE Light, and they're still. And to this day, yes, they've had better attendances than they have in years. But let's be honest, it's still recovering from the Hogan era from 15 years ago now. So AEW is going down that same path where they have the LED screens, they have the fucking nice they have the nice stages now, more crisp and all that. Again, it's and I'm not saying they don't look good, but even with AEW, they don't have, like, every so often they'll have a unique setup, but most of their stages are the same. And that's always been my gripe with WWE over the last. I don't mind if a stage is like, if like the stage for Raw is the same every week, or the stage for SmackDown's the same every week. But I hate when it's like all the same. Like the only difference between Raw and SmackDown maybe is the color of the fucking ring or color of the fucking. At least now with Raw and SmackDown, they definitely do look different now, especially with the ring mats. But with AEW, you go on Collision, same stage. You go to even Ring of Honor. At least when Ring of Honor was doing that whole run in Texas, they had a unique setup. But then also Collision had that same setup. Oh, I get the taping stuff and all that, but it's like.
I'm sorry. You were
and I'm going to be honest with you. This is a hot take. I actually would have preferred WWE to buy the rights to Ring of Honor. Because we still don't have we still don't have Ring of Honor on Max. We still don't have a Ring of Honor show on any television. Ring of Honor has no buzz. They've tried to create buzz with Chris Jericho twice with the Ring of Honor champion, and it's done nothing more than bastardize that division.
Well, it also doesn't help the fact
who's the biggest.
that
go ahead.
It doesn't help the fact that Jericho has also kind of taken a downward turn currently with his AEW
Oh
run.
my god!
So
he has become what he hated. Like Kevin Nash and a lot of the older guys from back in the day that always took the top spots. Jericho has become the people he hates. He is holding down the young guys from ever. Because look at this with Jericho. I would also say Chris Jericho has a and I didn't even think about this as a point, but I would believe Chris Jericho also is a defining. He is the defining factor of why AEW got off the ground. Like with, I felt like him becoming the first world champion was a right move, but also I feel like Jericho is the reason, one of the reasons for a decline. Because look at it this way: look at all the guys he's feuded with.
You know,
How many of them have actually made something of? Even people in his own stable. LAX is no longer with AEW. Sammy Guevara. Now, granted, he's an idiot, but Sammy Guevara is,
Yeah.
is in Ring of Honor limbo. Fucking big, like they have something with Big Bill, but I feel like they're going to fucking fuck it up, and he's going to be irrelevant like everybody else. Look at 2.0. I'm not talking about NXT, but you know,
if you want to, besides, if you want my opinion, if they're going to have their product somewhere, do it on your streaming service, which I'm subscribed to. I mean, I like the old school Ring of Honor, man.
well, hell, even put on Max. Like,
speaking of Jericho, he's actually on this recent episode of ROH and Honor Club.
But yeah, like Ring of Honor,
but
the irony.
is now. I guess since Jordan had that for the CM Punk thing, I'll add something different regarding this. I would say another issue with another part of decline of AEW. It's a pro and a con. Is there over reliance on legends and former WWE stars? Because let's look at it this way. They are trying to build a story around Jeff Jarrett in the year 2025 winning a world title before his career is over. And some people may think that there's no way Jeff Jarrett would they would ever put the AEW world title on Jeff Jarrett. But even though I loved how they treated Sting, look what with Sting. He was undefeated and he retired as a champion. Do you not think that Tony Khan would do that with Jeff Jarrett?
It's been 19 years since Jeff Jarrett was world champion, and we all remember that time. That he lost to Sting at Bound for Glory.
Yeah, and it's so funny. He's like John Cena in a way because, and hear me out before you say I'm an idiot for saying that. Look at John Cena. Look at John Cena. When he was on top, everybody hated him. When Jeff Jarrett, the last world title he won in TNA, remember they threw trash in the ring. They were sick to death of Jarrett and all that. And I guarantee you, and I'm not trying to sound cruel here, but I guarantee you, if his wife did not die, we would still have Jeff Jarrett shoved down our throats in his own company and all that. I think that humbled him. Because he again, as Mike Graham once said about Jeff Jarrett, and I don't hate Jeff Jarrett, but I will say this about him. As Mike Graham once said, he broke 6,000 guitars, never drew a dime. He was like, they tried WCW, they tried it in TNA, it never worked. But
actually did do it in WF first, and then WCW, and then.
Well, he was never made as a big deal, and like, remember the one time they thought about putting him in the world title scene, Stone Cold kiboshed that.
Remember his rivalry with China? I mean, it was a big deal.
Yeah, but that wasn't like a marquee main event feud.
Oh yes, it was.
No, but like, again,
no,
like,
it wasn't.
Thank you, because like I don't care what anybody says. Like, the only time they thought about putting him in the main event, Stone Cold kiboshed that idea and just made him look like a complete jabroni. But what I was gonna say is that Jeff Jarrett, Chris Jericho, fucking who else is in there? I'm missing some people. Like they've been trotting out Ric Flair as of late. Sting was like one.
I think Flair is going to be coming back to WWE soon, but I can't. But don't
Sting is one of the only bright spots because I think they did Sting good. He went through his Terry Funk era, which I will not criticize that. That's like one of the rare cases where I'll say that was done right. But like you got like Chris Jericho still on top. He's a fucking world champion in the year 2025. He and he has the most annoying gimmick. Like almost every gimmick he has done has been great. This is like the one gimmick. And again, Jericho was smart enough back then when he came back as Y2J in 07 in WWE. He was smart enough to know that this audience didn't really care for Y2J. They wanted something different. That's why he became the best in the world at what I do, you know. And the list, Le Champion,
you're talking about the serious Chris Jericho,
Yeah, when he was basically channeling Anton Chigurh from No Country Road Man and Nick Bockwinkel.
Like the Buzz Killer, that.
Yeah, but like with Jericho, he's doing this learning. Like he really, after the Le Champion gimmick, he really just couldn't find anything. He tried the Jericho Appreciation Society. Again, you look at all the guys that Jericho has feuded with. Hook at one point was a bigger deal when he feuded with Samoa Joe. Then when he feuded with fucking Chris Jericho, his stock went down. I forgot he was even employed still because I saw he's facing Christian Cage this week. Now, I will say though, one other person that have AEW to be devil's advocate, another person that AEW has done good by with his character has been, of course, Father of the Year Christian Cage. Like Christian Cage. Now, granted, is he as does he say as much heinous stuff as he did maybe a year ago? No, but he just stands in the crowd and fucking gives a mean look to everybody. But still, like
he'll say some pretty mean things. Just trust me, he's just biding his time.
Yeah, like Christian has been, but like look at the other people. Adam Copeland, he's back from a freaking broken leg because his dumbass still thought he was in his 20s, and he is in a feud with in the world title picture. When let's be honest here, well, like he was the TNT champion, shouldn't he be going after the title he never lost? Instead he's just feuding with that. Or even look at fucking, I know he's not a wrestler, but Don Callis. Kenny Omega just came back, and look where we're back. We're right back to what was Kenny Omega was doing before he left. He's feuding with the goddamn Don Callis family, another group that has fucking done nothing for anybody except probably Takeshita and all that. Like Kyle Fletcher too, but we'll see with him. But like all these legend stables like that they've made. Fucking Taz, Team Taz. What are those guys doing now? Brian Cage, another group held by a legend. Fucking Ricky Starks is fucking nowhere to be seen. Who else was in Team Taz? Hook. He's gone down the pecking order.
Powerhouse Hobbs was in Team Taz too.
Yeah, Hobbs are finally doing something with him, but again, I have fear that that eventually he's like the Hurt Biz or the Hurt Syndicate. Again, former WWE guys. I will say this though, Shelton Benjamin is another rare case where he looks as good as he's been in years. I'm like, where's this Shelton Benjamin been? This is like Shelton Benjamin 20 years ago, but he's older.
Well, here's the thing. That's because they're not utilizing him to the best of their ability back when he returned to WWE. I mean, that's the big problem. They think, we should tone you down a bit just to build our younger stars up a bit, but
And let me add one, like, I also this could be just the and they've not just and not all the former WWE guys have gotten good treatment. Case in point, Malachi Black, Miro, fucking who else? Keith Lee, I don't count because he's had health issues, so I don't really put him in that category.
You actually are making the perfect segue into my recent number 2 for the decline of AEW, which is dropping the ball on potential big stars.
Exactly.
Actually, they drop a lot of big balls, and they don't have any anymore. I
Because
kind
there
of
are
agree.
so many.
I agree with this one.
There are so many big. There are so many people who could have became much more for AEW.
But they couldn't.
Because I can think of right now. I think of right now the main 5 people that I think that really fit into this category, other than CM Punk, because CM Punk is the big one. Malachi Black is a big one. Then
Miro.
I have with Malachi Black, Miro definitely was one of them. Andrade.
Oh
was
yeah,
one of mine. That's
and he's
Oh
back.
yeah, they
Andrade.
fucking
Actually doing
they
better
dropped him so
than
bad he went back to WWE.
He's actually doing better in WWE than he was in AEW. Not gonna lie.
Malachi
much better,
Black,
much better.
according to reports, he may be on. He's supposed to be on his way out to fucking back to WWE.
But who's the 5th guy you put in the category?
And then the 5th one, Ricky Starks.
Ricky Starks. Wait. Oh, I thought it was former WWE guys.
Well, no, it's all around.
Well, then again, when you think about it,
It's all around.
they did drop the ball with him over like a year and a half ago.
Yeah, they dropped the ball big with Ricky Starks, especially
Like after
because
Adam Copeland got signed up, that's when they started double downing on him instead of double dipping.
Well, look at fucking even MJF. He's not as he is ice cold right now. Like MJF's another one that I feel like they've dropped the ball on because who cares? Like again, he's another one. He's starting a feud with Jeff Jarrett. It's just like
I don't think.
Go ahead.
I disagree with the fact that MJF. I disagree with MJF being ice cold because MJF can still get reactions from the crowd.
That is
fair,
that,
but he's not as
and he still plays his role to a heel to a great degree. I think if you're ice cold, you flatline when it comes to momentum. MJF can always build back momentum.
That's fair.
I agree. And
I think when you think of ice cold, I want to say, I think Adam Cole fits ice cold more than MJF does.
Yeah.
For being real.
Yeah. Like and like it's going like even other people like the Lucha Brothers, how they fucking did Phoenix dirty like they've done. I'm shocked they didn't do that with Malachi Black, but hey, there's still time where Tony Khan could do that.
But here's the thing that I gotta point out regarding MJF. Like the moment he came back, yes, he was like almost looking like the anti-hero babyface. Which I mean, here's the thing: if there's 2 things about MJF you should do with him, if you want him to be a heel, make sure he is dirty and rotten. Like make sure he is hated. But if he's not being hated, then don't make him a goody 2-shoes good guy. Make him an anti-hero like Stone Cold Steve Austin or The Rock or Triple H. That kind of deal. Where he doesn't pander to the crowd too much, where he's trying to, actually do things on his terms and no one else's, but yet still get a good reaction from it, in a good way and not the negative. And the moment he came back, he decides to turn heel. But the one thing that really just boggles my mind is that he wins the international championship, but he doesn't get a rematch for the world title after he lost it. That's what really kind of bums me out, which that kind of drops the ball on MJF on that one.
Would you even throw Okada in that mix?
To an extent, you can put Okada into that mix. But I also think that Okada, in a lot of ways, his run, even though he's been with the company for so long, it's really just kind of beginning. It's really kind of beginning with Okada.
Yeah, because like if you compare him to like Will Ospreay, it's like Ospreay's been played as a bigger deal, but but even Okada, he won the Continental Classic. I was just curious because, again, like Okada really didn't have that New Japan style match until really World's End with Osprey, because that was probably match of the night in my opinion. And you know, it just, and I've loved Okada's character. I just like that he trolls people. That's like the one thing I'll say about the character work of Okada. But it's just going to the. I'm trying to think of other people that have, you know, been like misused, because again, I can't really put Keith Lee in there. I can't put Adam Cole in there because both of them have been dealt with bad injuries. So really
they're also dealt with bad hands too.
yeah, so like, you know, even well, here's another example. I can't believe I didn't think about this. Jamie Hayter. Remember how over Jamie Hayter was before she got injured? Nowadays she can't really get any reaction. The only thing I can think of, Jamie Hayter, she looks like fucking right off from that '70s show.
Yeah, now that's somebody who and I kind of forgot she was with the AEW. So that is an example of somebody who has ice cold momentum right now. That is a perfect example of somebody who has ice cold momentum. Someone who you even forget is part of the company. But let's move forward. Move forward. I think we're on Jordan with Jordan's reason number 2.
Okay. It's another departure. Cody Rhodes. Now,
Yeah.
the departure of Cody Rhodes. Okay, this is is simply what we'd call the domino effect that would lead up to also CM Punk's departure. Now, we all know Cody Rhodes, along with the Bucks and Omega, they all, they banded together because, after the success of that All In show, back in 2018, which is also available if you're subscribed to Honor Club, you can actually watch it on there, I believe. And I watched it. It was actually a pretty damn good event. I really think Cody should have main evented the show because, again, for the NWA World's Heavyweight title, because that would have.
Speaking of a company that's ice cold right now.
Yeah, well, we're not in. Well, here's the thing: we're not talking about the company. We're talking about the championship, the prestigious championship. Okay, just bear with me.
That title died. The prestige died when Tyrus held it. Anyway, go ahead.
It died a little bit before that, if we're being realistic. But anyways.
If we ever did the decline of NWA, I think the number one thing would be the pandemic was what killed the NWA.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead, Jordan. My bad.
Do I need to sew your mouth shut?
Hey, you brought up the NWA, and I always like to poke fun at them.
I said the world title, not.
Yeah, let's get back to the program.
Anyway.
Anyways, Jordan, continue.
He wants me to sew his mouth shut. Let's be real here. Anyway, the thing is with freaking, that show, it was a huge success. Problem is they're not going to build around Ring of Honor. They're not going to build around the NWA. They're not going to build around anything. They're going to start from scratch, and that's how the formation of AEW came. But they needed financial, backing and financing and all that. And that's how Tony Khan and his father came into play. And thus the birth of All Elite Wrestling was there. And then we get our first pay-per-view. Cody, what was definitely, what we'd call somebody who could have been the face of the company and could have ran a tight ship without any problems whatsoever. I mean, look what he's doing in WWE and tell me that it's not being run like a tight ship with him as the face of the company, because nobody can. I mean, sure, if you have a detractor here and there, that's just a detractor. But if you were to tell me in a business aspect that he's not doing a great job, you're losing your mind, because that company's doing a lot better with him at the helm than it has been in the last decade or so. And the thing is with Cody Rhodes, despite legalities of not having the rights to even say that, be known as Cody Rhodes, still, I mean, he was able to actually have the legal, rights to change his name, like legally. And but for the first year or so, we actually had, Cody Rhodes as if he was going to be, somebody who could build the company, but they took away his ability to ever challenge for the AEW World title, which is a dumb move because, again, I mean, I did love Chris Jericho as the inaugural champion, but I think Cody would have helped build that championship and made it more elevated, in my personal opinion. I mean,
yeah, looking back at it now, and I'm sorry to kind of cut you off right there, but looking back at it now, Cody would have been. I would have preferred Cody to take the title than Moxley to take it. Looking back at it now.
Don't get me wrong, Moxley sure, you could say whatever you want about Moxley, but here's the thing: he is reliable to be world champion. I mean, they've been relying on him to be world champion so many times. So like I don't know how many times they've crowned him as world champion without somebody.
I think this is his fourth run. I think this is his fourth run with the belt.
So you could say he is a reliable man to hold the title, which is fine, but he's not the kind of person I would build a company around. If I'm being realistic.
Oh, I agree. But I agree.
But with Cody Rhodes, that was a dumb decision that they made. I don't know if it was Cody that made that decision because, again, yes, Cody was, a producer, an EVP, whatever you want to call him. But the problem was it's really hard to tell whether or not he had creative control. Now, when a wrestler if you guys don't know this, if you guys, watching us right now, if you don't know what creative control is, it's basically something when a wrestler or somebody within the company has the right and privilege to change any outcome of any matches or storyline that he or she can see fit. Now, with Cody, because he had, again, he was a EVP, I believe, at the time, or at least, some position of power. He could have, but the thing is, I have a strong doubt that he never really abused his power that much. I don't really think he did because, sure, he was the inaugural TNT champion. Yes, he was the last person that John Huber, a.k.a. Luke, formerly known as Luke Harper, then known as what was the guy's name? I'm trying.
Brody Lee.
Brody Lee. There you go.
Brody Lee.
Yeah. Even bringing him up is really kind of hard at this point because after what happened, again, he was one of the last few people Brody Lee feuded with, but still, rest in peace to Brody Lee, and all that. But as soon as the Rock, that was over and done with, and Cody, here's the thing. If he was really abusing his power, he was already on the mid-card level because the TNT title, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What I don't understand is why was there a negative reaction towards the guy? Because it didn't make any sense. He wasn't trying to bury anybody. He wasn't, using a golden shovel. He wasn't abusing his power. In fact, there's no proof that he ever did. I think the crowd was, reacting because of what they saw of how Cody came off because of him being the good guy, as it were. So, what is it, 7%? Oh, okay. I'll just say this. In this regard, I think it was unfair for how Cody was received by the audience because it's like, he wasn't really given the opportunity to really be at his potential as he should have been like he is now. And
it's crazy to also think how he left AEW being booed out of the building, but when he went to WWE with the same gimmick, he was beloved. It just shows you the different audiences in both companies.
Yeah, because again, I just think, with AEW fans, and I don't mean that, I don't like saying this, but they are fickle at this point because they don't really understand what is really going on, in regards to backstage, politics, backstage production, or anything of the sort. And I'm not trying to insult anybody. That's just how I see it. And I call it how I see it. Everybody knows me for that. And as far as I'm concerned, Cody, he was. I mean, the fact that they booed him, all the way to his last match, and for God only knows what against Sammy Guevara of all people. Still, he never really took the main event spotlight for himself. Never did. And he never, like if
That's
anybody,
good, no love.
if anything, I think that it was wrongfully, reacted the way how he was done. But if it wasn't for that, I don't think we would see. I don't think we would have seen him back in WWE. There's just no way.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely agreed. I do. His AEW tenure definitely allowed for him to raise, I think, his stock up, and he definitely, the journey away from WWE was well worth it for him to eventually come back.
This
to
is true.
WWE,
I mean,
especially
whenever
based
someone's
on where
fired,
we got
sometimes they come
to.
back, they're bigger, badder, and better, right?
Yeah, but I
Look at
also think in a
Drew
lot of ways, there were many times when in Cody's run, I think in a lot of ways where there were people expected to win in certain situations where they didn't. And I don't put that on Cody. I really don't think that's Cody's fault.
I don't either.
I think that's more so. I think that's more so of a Tony Khan decision than a Cody decision. Because I definitely think
right there, I'll get to, but finish your point because I want to get to that right there.
Because I definitely think in a lot of ways in the Cody Malachi Black feud, I do think Malachi should have gone over.
Yeah,
I think Malachi would have been a much more dominant position in AEW had he gone over on Cody.
I agree with that because
MJF really took off once he went over Cody.
This is true.
Malachi Black should have gone over on Cody instead of Cody getting the win in the final matchup. Malachi should have gone over. And you also have the Agogo feud, which that feud was terrible. I'm sorry, but that feud sucked.
Wait, which one?
Anthony Agogo.
Oh, that one. No.
Yeah.
You know what's so funny? You said Anthony Agogo. I couldn't even remember who that was now.
Well, yeah, because he's practically gone from the company now. But that feud sucked. It was bad.
Yeah.
And I get what they were trying to do. I definitely think that in a lot of ways, Cody definitely should have gone over on that feud. But you had so many just bad segments in that feud. You had the Cody promo where Cody is the answer to racism. And then you have the whole weigh-in segment, which that was just absolutely terrible. I'm not opposed to segments like that, but some things you can just rehearse before you actually go out and do it on TV.
I agree. But here's the thing about, another thing about what led to Cody's departure. And I don't know if he can confirm this or deny this all he wants, but it has a lot to do with, the way how Tony Khan handles things. Because I think Cody, in my opinion, might have seen the writing on the wall before it escalated, with AEW All Out 2022. Because let's be honest here. I mean, Cody Rhodes is a very innovative figure, but he is not in the mood for games. And especially when it comes to Tony Khan, because Khan, I hate saying it, but Khan really, he just does not know how to run a wrestling company, and he doesn't know how to be a prick about it, and that's saying much. I mean, say what you want about Vince McMahon, but back in the day, he was a boss, and that is what, people need. You don't need a friend. Like, if you're going to be friends, that's fine, but you need a boss to really, put you in line and set you straight. And I think the writing on the wall was there for Cody, and that's why I think he departed as well. It wasn't just the reactions he was getting, and it wasn't just, certain things where he went over or somebody else went over on him. It was basically the writing on the wall.
I'm in the car now, so the thing's hooked up, so I'm good right now. But if you hear any background, that's just because we're driving. But nonetheless, I'm
Okay,
good
well,
now.
all right. Well, it is. Well, speaking of you being good now, it is your turn. Um,
Well, another thing I would actually add to a decline of AEW, and it really has nothing to do with the product as itself, but unfortunately, it's the fans, and I'm not talking about the wrestling fans. I'm talking about the AEW fans.
That's what I was
And
talking about earlier.
well, yeah, actually, you're the reason why I kind of
yep.
thought of that idea. One thing that I like to do is just think on the fly on certain things because since we have similar reasons.
No. It's the AEW fans, not the fans.
Yeah, because
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right.
and and Jordan, we've
You're right.
interacted. We have a few people we know that are like the diehard AEW fans, and
Oh my God, yeah.
and this is no hate. I'm going to be honest, but
I don't hate them either. No.
yeah, but these people, these people that are constantly praising AEW and finding no fault, and even when they when they have to admit fault, they fucking still have to act like AEW is the biggest thing ever. It's people like that, and then even like for example, when certain people leave, like a Cody Rhodes or CM Punk, they're like, "You betrayed us, you abandoned us," and all this other stuff with these people, and it's like,
This is
grow
a
the
business. This is a business,
yeah.
not the military.
CM Punk said it right. I ain't here to make friends. I'm here to make money. You
This
know,
is true.
and Punk saw it as a business. And if people aren't going to run like that, but the fans are, because anybody who has any disagreements, it was like back in the day with TNA. People used to fucking get all mad with TNA people if you criticize TNA. I remember there was this one group that I used to feud with. This is even going back before I was even on YouTube, called the TNA Soldiers, and that's how they spelled it, the Soldiers, and like Soldier Boy.
Just
Anyway, they were feuding with me on Facebook over my opinions of TNA at the time, and this was probably 2014, 2015, and all that stuff. Damn it, I'm in a stream. Quit calling me. Anyway, um, anywho, what I was saying though was
now
that,
you know how I feel.
yeah, what I'm saying though is that like these people unfortunately are like brain dead if they don't understand that AEW has a bunch of problems. And honestly, they're I would say they're another reason why people are turning off of AEW. Yes, do WWE have those big like those stands, who fucking kiss everything that, because WWE has its flaws too. Even today, I'm not going to deny that. But AEW, to me, it's brought out the worst in these people, because
Yes,
you see someone like, we know, I'm not going to say his name, but anybody who probably knows of us in our past, you probably know who we're referring to. He will not have any argument. He did a debate with, and he was in the chat earlier. I don't know if he still is, but he did debate with Tom about AEW Cypress, and you know anybody could have beaten him in a debate, because with logic, because like if you were debating us against AEW in 2019, that would have been one thing, or 2020, even 2021. But you debating the AEW superior now,
but I just turned it
there
on.
ain't no debate. Okay, what happened? Okay, give me a second.
To also to agree with his point, where he was like, here's the thing, he's talking about our anniversary 5. By the way, 5 years and still going. Episode 260, I believe. After like, here's the thing, I'm not gonna dog on anybody who who likes AEW. I mean, if you want to watch it, great. I mean, I'll bring this guy up, Eric Lima, one of my co-hosts and one of my good friends here on the internet. He is a a wrestling fan. He's not really what you'd call a like a fan of a certain company where he's going to be loyal to one company. He just loves wrestling. He'll watch WWE, he'll watch TNA, he'll watch AEW, he'll watch anything if it's available to watch, like in his area. That doesn't mean he's going to watch all of wrestling like around the world. If he looks at it online, that's a whole different story. But if it's on television, he'll jump at the chance to try and, catch up with it. But he's not, what I'd call a shill. He's a wrestling fan. There's a difference. Now, with other people we do know, I hate saying it, but yes, there are some people that can be shills for companies. Let's wind the clocks back 5 years ago, Paige, when we first met. A certain individual that, that led up to episode 29 of the Rant Rate podcast, that was a shill.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And you know what? And the funny thing is, it wasn't even over AEW. It was over WWE, and it was also over a freaking video game. A freaking video
It was over a video game, yeah.
And by the way, because you haven't been streaming for a while, Paige, you're bitch made. You're bitch made.
I was gonna say the AEW video game Fight Forever is the greatest game. It is like it's not as good as 2K20, but it is still the greatest game of all time. And if you don't agree with that, Jordan, if you don't think like AEW Fight Forever is better than 2K22, 24, it's even better than Here Comes the Pain and No Mercy. If you don't believe that,
you forgot about 2K. You forgot about 2K23.
Oh, yeah, 2K23. Well, nobody remembers that because, John Cena, and everybody hates John Cena except for now. The GOAT. Anyway, winner of the Royal Rumble, the GOAT. Anywho.
Oh, my God.
I'm going to be like what I did with Michael Babardi with Tiffany Stratton. I'm going to be like that with Romy if John Cena does win the Rumble. Like, the GOAT?
Dude,
the GOAT?
You don't want to see Romy, when he gets mad about John Cena, trust me.
But, yeah, anyway. The fans, I feel like, have been
definitely. The fan base definitely, because for some reason, wrestling has to be very tribalist. I've never understood this. In a lot of ways, I get it. You want to support your company. You like this company. You want to support it. But there are ways to show your support to a company than being completely loyal to us, to where you completely become blind to what's going on television every single week. Because don't get me wrong, there are great things about AEW, but there are just so many opportunities where AEW just misses the mark. And when people don't see it, it's kind of like, what are you watching, man? Like, are you watching the same AEW that I've been watching? Like what's been going on here? But it's a lot of this.
I can say this for real quick, and hate to cut you off. I just want to prove this one point.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to stay loyal to one company and, because you want to be, there for your company, here's the thing. You say your company, here's a problem. Are you getting paid from that company? Are they giving you money to watch their product? Are they giving you money to watch their pay-per-views, to actually purchase the pay-per-views? Are they doing this for your own best interest, or are they just wanting you to just keep watching their product until your life is drained away to the last breath?
Here's another thing I want to add, and this is a good comparison.
Keep that in
going
mind.
into sport, going into sports. As most of you know, I'm from Texas, but I've said the Cowboys have sucked for a good no offense, Dan, but the Cowboys have sucked for probably a decade plus, maybe even 2 decades. I can't remember the last time they won a Super Bowl. Every time they get into the Super Bowl or the playoffs, they do what they always do, and that is choke. My point is that even me, a man from Texas, I am not going to root for a team that sucks. And so therefore, going back to the wrestling thing, I will root for if the Cowboys do some good, I will praise it. But if they fucking, same thing with AEW. AEW again, their pay-per-views, while they're too fucking long, their pay-per-views have been good in terms of match quality. However, the fact is that the week in, week out, like the Death Rider story, it's gone the way of the EVP Young Buck situate the Elite storyline. It is nobody cares. Like, so my point is though, is that, you know, just because I am a wrestling fan doesn't mean that I have to rely on one company or another. I have said for years, I've enjoyed TNA's work over the last few years, but they have no fucking buzz. The Until recently with the WWE stuff. But, you know,
They gained a
like
lot of last year when they
look
brought
at what look at it this way. Kenny Omega was at one point the Impact World Champion. What did that do for TNA? Nothing.
You mean
You
Impact?
know, he was the Impact World Champion. What did that do for Impact? Well, yeah, because there were no other Impact. Thank you, baby.
You know,
Everything good?
another thing
So yeah,
I want to ask Paige some about what I just said. You know, before before you spoke, is that like what I said about being loyal to the company? Like, do you benefit off it? Do you get paid by it? I mean, like, I want to ask him, what did you think of what I had to say about that?
I mean that's a great point. That is a really great point of, many of these people, they're doing this for free.
Yeah, if I'm gonna do something, like, here's the thing: we're gonna be reacting to Raw every Monday night on Brand's channel, and the thing is, we're not getting paid for it, but at least we're enjoying our time, enjoying each other's company, with other people on the panel, and we're having fun. We're not doing it to get paid.
Mm-hmm.
We just, doing it for fun.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not doing it just to kiss WWE's ass. Not, in fact, we don't kiss anyone's ass. The only thing we do is just, watch wrestling. That's it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and plus
All right.
you've
So
had
we
different
are
people
you
from
kind
different. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was about to say, in a lot of ways, my point number three, was Jordan's point number one, which was the career of CM Punk. So I will, we can kind of keep this going. I will throw it over to Jordan for reason number three.
Okay. I'm going to say this and say we're going to go back that with the with the whole thing with the Young Bucks. Now, I'm going to say this. I don't have any issues with Kenny Omega. I don't have any issues with, anybody who are friends with the Young Bucks. But as of late, they have been acting like, complete, utter garbage. They really do not know how to run a wrestling company if it saved their life. And on top of all that, they really just don't know when to put their egos in check, because they are one of in fact, they are somewhat reasons why you had, Punk and Cody leave the company, because of their huge egos. And another thing too, here's a fun fact. Like, it was also told, like, at the aforementioned Brawl Out, 2022, it was, it was a Fuster Cluck. They just, they couldn't, put their, personal issues aside, and not start up a fight. And I really do think that if Matt and Nick Jackson were mature enough to think that this was not good for business to try and attack a man while he's already hurt, especially one that can actually win a fight, even though he never won in the UFC, which is a different story, then you're asking for trouble.
And he has MMA training, despite him losing. He has MMA training like that.
Then the year after, when this is before, the whole brawl out happened, and before all in went on or brawl in. So they decided to, for some reason, they had these transportation, right? They had, a lot of transportation for, a lot of wrestlers, and all of it scheduled and on time. CM Punk had his, bit screwed. And the driver who was, who was supposed to get CM Punk, from, according to Jim Cornette, was a Young Bucks jock sniffer. meaning like a follower, a dick rider, or just a loyalist, whatever you want to call him, and pretty much was intentionally making CM Punk late. In fact, originally they were supposed to meet each other. They were supposed to, like have a sit down, discuss their issues, hash things out, and maybe, hopefully, for the sake of business, discuss a future storyline so they could, make the real thing into a story to make great matches, to make great money for the fans to invest off of. But because of their egos, because CM Punk is a bigger star than them, and this is not me, not me, shooting, stuff, towards CM Punk saying that he's the greatest of all time. I'm just simply pointing out the facts. CM Punk is a bigger star than the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, and all that stuff. So if anybody were to say that he's not, you're blind. But at the end of the day, they just can't, they couldn't accept the fact that he was a bigger star, but still, they could have invested off of him. They could have invested off of him with the charisma, the talent, and pretty much, the draw he was and still is with the fans. But because of their, egos and their personalities, they could not, put in the business equation, put personal issues aside just to talk things out. Instead, they try to make him late for the damn show. And
I'll throw it with me and Jordan. Look at me and him. We were able to put our personal issues aside, make amends and all that stuff, and we've been stronger for it. Like
Yep.
and not only have we made our friendship strong, but we've done big business on some of the stuff we've done on YouTube since then. Not saying that that was not saying that
2024 was the year of of the Che and Jordy.
yeah, that like I'm not gonna say like that wasn't the reason the reason why we made, but that's what I'm saying. Us coming out of that issue stronger not only meant our friendship, but it meant good business on our respective channels and elsewhere. Like for example, us working here. And so,
Yep.
and we were mature enough to understand that we had to let's see. Okay, so my phone may die. Just FYI, I'm just waiting for my girl to get gas. FYI, but anyway, um, so that is the thing I wanted to add to that as an example, because look at all the bit like we missed out on a CM Punk Kenny Omega match, which an FTR, a CMFTR match with the Elite, all these different things that we could have gotten if queer heads prevailed. And unfortunately, it was primarily the Young Bucks who were the root of that issue, who were not only caused a lot of this, but also, excuse me, didn't decide to man up and realize that there's business to be made. Again, I go back to CM Punk and Seth Rollins. Look at the business they did on fucking Monday. And look at the business they've been doing since Punk's return. Drew McIntyre and CM Punk.
Let's not forget. Yeah, I was gonna say let's not forget about McIntyre and CM Punk.
Yeah, the feud of the year last year was CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, and half of that feud was while Punk was injured,
and they still had him on television.
And they they did one of the best Hell in a Cell match we have seen in a very long time. It wasn't a match that we just got because, it's October, it's time to bring the cell. Because we got great Hell, like the Usos and the New Day and all that, but I'm referring to a proper fuck.
Named proper. Wow.
Oh. Well, Chayton, that's something you apparently have been getting a lot of good ones lately, so I guess that's accurate.
Oh my god, I miss being here. By the way,
we off the cuff here.
You know, if he somehow gets bumped off, I mean, we can wait for him to come back. You know, because we could still let him have his reasons too. You know.
We can. We can.
Anyway,
Let me
to get back
see.
to my point, yeah, and then you know what else happened. Now,
Yeah.
the brawl-in happened, and then you know, and oh, there he goes.
Oops, there he is. Whoops, there he went.
Don't worry, he'll be back. But anyway,
If he comes back, he comes back. Um,
but yeah, I was gonna get back to what I was saying. Wow, your camera's fixed. Okay. Um, to get back to what I was saying about the EVPs. Now, 1 year, almost a year passes, and this was the catalyst that made me stop watching AEW product altogether. I even made a Facebook post about it because that's how disappointed I really was. Now here's the thing.
Oh, it was a bad decision. It was terrible.
What the thing is, what they did, what originally was thought of, is that they were the ones that showcased the brawl-in footage. That is false. They were not greenlit. They didn't. In fact, they were not in for that. That was Tony Khan's decision. And you want to know why Tony Khan did that? Was because he got his panties in a bunch because of the Ariel Helwani show, the MMA Hour, and the interview CM Punk had with him. And the thing is, listen, like Paige, you and me, we've had our history where you can be very, very critical with me of certain decisions I made or what videos I had done. But had I had been the person I am now and what Tony Khan should be, I don't think he would have ever showcased that footage. Because if he had just thought of, okay, I want to sit down with Ariel Helwani because even though he's, somewhat critical of me, just like we are right now, let's go ahead with this. Let us, let me tell my side of the story since Punk had his chance to tell the side of the story. But all freaking Tony Khan did was make CM Punk look like he was telling the truth from the very beginning. He made him look good on his own product.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what's so sad?
And not only that, but if we go back in time, and I'm sorry to kind of cut you off like that, but if we go back in time, Tony Khan had an interview with Ariel Helwani on the MMA Hour, and it was one of the worst interviews you could ever have because he didn't want to answer any question. It was so bad.
And you know what? And that's another thing too. That's why he didn't, he couldn't stand, Ariel Helwani having CM Punk's side of the story. But yet he could have been on there just to give his side of the story, but he didn't. He decided, you know what? Let's go ahead and just, showcase his footage. But here's the thing: it was a ratings, draw. It was a trap, just for people to watch the product to see if they were actually going to do it. I didn't think they were going to do it. You know what I thought they were going to do? They were going to do a parody off of it. Because you don't
they
normally
done so much better if they did.
It would have done much better if they did. Because here's the thing: it would be a way of saying
much better.
Because here's the thing, like wrestling. How do I put this? With wrestling, you don't normally see real life stuff being showcased on television that much. I mean, sure, you could see real life rivalries turn into, storylines, this, that, and the third, but to put real life issues like of a surveillance footage on television is a whole different ballgame. And I wasn't disgusted by that. I was disgusted with the fact that they buried their own company by making CM Punk look good. It's like everything that CM Punk ever said was the truth. And you know what? It just proves that, I mean, like, I'm not saying that, CM Punk, everything he says is gospel or truth. I'm just simply saying that CM Punk was telling the whole truth every moment in AEW. He was there from the beginning all the way to his end up in that company. And what makes matters worse is this. They even, try to whitewash this off the internet where people had replays of it, and they try to erase it off the, internet. And including they edited the part where they were
copyright striking people
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Yeah, I can
they were
understand
copyright striking people for airing it.
But here's the thing. I mean, sure, you're going to get copyright strikes, but here's the thing. You're the ones who showcase the footage. You dump. So what do you expect to happen? Like that nobody wasn't going to re-upload this? I mean, like that is stupid. So, and you know what's so even bad? They have that
not only that, but it was barely there was barely anything to be viewed. I can understand if this was like a good 10, 20-minute conversation, but this was barely a minute of footage that you were going after people for. And for what? You went after people for it because it made you look like the biggest idiot on the planet.
And that's exactly what happened. And you know what makes matters worse? When they re-uploaded the segment of how the Young Bucks lost to FTR. And, you know, the thing is, even though that's the whole point of the footage, that was the reason, they edit it to where you can't even see the footage on their YouTube channel when they re-upload that segment.
Yep.
And I think that was extremely pathetic. And you know what's even sadder is that, I mean, like, with everything that's gone down with this company, this is another thing that I also can't stand about the Young Bucks. And also somewhat with Kenny Omega, but this is just my opinion on the Bucks. I mean, Kenny Omega is not even one of my reasons, okay? The fact that they are completely, you know, like a bit of spot clowns, okay? Now, I'm not going to say, you know, the other word because I don't want to sound like a racist, as it were, but I'm going to call them spot clowns, okay? Because they have their moments where they're picking their spots, you know, in every match and over choreographing the hell out of this. You know, like, I love a match when it's choreographed, you know, to certain moments where it's for the athleticism, but when you're doing way too many top rope maneuvers, like, it loses its credibility to actually gain hype and actually be, you know, a momentous occasion. Like, that's what they are. They're spot clowns. And they keep doing this shit over and over and over, like as if it's going to keep the crowd going like, oh, you know, that's, no. It's gone way past the point of no return. And they've been doing this with every single match that they've been doing ever since AEW got founded. And if I'm not the only one that says this or sees it too.
It's true. It's true, but that's also a bigger problem I have with a lot of the matches of AEW, where there's a lot of matches that are very spot based.
Yes, they are.
Again, I don't mind choreographed spots. I don't mind that in a wrestling match.
I don't either.
But there needs to be moments in the match where we build up to certain points. We can't just have spot after spot after spot, and it doesn't mean anything. A bigger example of this in modern times is going to be, I would say, Ospreay and Fletcher.
I mean, you know what's another thing that's also another key figure too of what's making this even worse? False finishes too.
Yep. Oh man. Oh my God. That is so true. There are so many false finishes sometimes in matches, and after a while, it's like, just end the match.
Like if you're in the right spot at the right time and your mark, just go for it. Just end it. If you don't have anything else left to give. Because to me, I'm of the opinion where if you have your finisher done, that should just end the match. As long as if your finisher is gone to the point where you're too far away from your opponent and you have to drag yourself to pin and then he just kicks out after the finisher, that I can believe. But if you just hit your finisher and then you just pin the guy, that should just end it.
Yeah. Yeah. So many AEW matches would be so better if we just cut to a point where we could just cut about 20% of just the matches and stuff in general. If we could cut just about 20% of it, some of the matches of AEW would be so much better.
It would, but it's not because it's getting real. It's getting worse.
And as we can, and as we kind of continue on, we're gonna kind of continue on. I think I know my next reason for the decline of AEW, or reason that we've talked about briefly but not given its own subject to, and that is going to be the good old leadership of one only Tony Khan.
Oh, man, I wish you saved this for number 5. I would have had a blast tearing this guy to shreds with his leadership.
Oh man, well, you kind of took my note. We talked about my number 5 has already been talked about in a lot of ways with the All In footage. I was gonna save that for my number 5, but because if anything, in modern times, that has definitely had a greater impact on things. But Tony Khan, as first, I'm gonna talk about this in a few different aspects. The first one being Tony Khan is the face of AEW.
Mm-hmm.
If you've ever sat through a Tony Khan media scrum,
I get bored just by watching those scrums.
A Tony Khan media scrum, especially just the parts where it's just Tony Khan, the Tony Khan parts are like pulling teeth, because all he has to say is, "Oh, I think we just did a great thing, and we just had a really great match, and I think that we're going to do great ratings, and
that's
we're
exactly
doing so
what
close.
it
We
is.
just got to deal with Max." And like, that is 95% of a Tony Khan media scrum. He cannot find anything bad or any critic about his company, and people can ask him the most riveting of questions, and he'll be like, "Oh, well, I think we just did a great thing here, and we just pulled off some of the biggest numbers that we could ever pull off." He is so bad.
Oh, James.
I'm back. There should be no interruptions because we're on the road.
On the road again.
All right. But yeah, but just
that was going to be one of my final points was Tony Khan, the incompetence of Tony Khan.
It's the leadership. It's not his incompetence. It's wait, hold on.
Well,
incompetence.
Huh?
Define incompetence in your perspective, Jaden.
Well, first off, him not being competent enough to handle the CM Punk and Young Bucks situation, because this doesn't matter who, like, that the Young Bucks EVPs. At the end of the day, Tony Khan is the fucking boss, and he should have just told them, "Hey, I don't care if y'all don't want to meet. Y'all are meeting and at least getting something done. If it comes out bad, comes out good, at least y'all met like that." And
but not only that, but for the All In incident, Perry should have gotten fired. He should have not been just suspended.
No, you know
you
what?
You can't just go around, especially for the fact that, from what has been said, he was cussing people out because he couldn't use a spot with glass. He should have been in trouble for that, first of all.
But they didn't do anything.
But then for nothing to happen then, and then for Tim to go on live television and say, "Real glass, cry me a river," you should have been
what's
fired.
So funny? You say television. Actually, it was actually a pre-show that was for free to view on multiple streaming services and on YouTube and other internet platforms. It was not on television, which is even worse.
Also, well, it's not just on. Well, to an extent, it is not just on television. But if you get it on cable, you get 0 hour on television.
Wow.
Well, we could have watched it on YouTube, on TV, on the television, like streaming it from the YouTube app.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I agree. The son of a bitch should have gotten fired, on the spot, Yeah.
Yeah, he should have been more than just suspended. He should have been fired for what he did. Now, don't get me wrong. In a lot of ways, Punk got his firing, and to an extent, even though this is somewhat of an unpopular opinion, but in some ways, his firing was just for choking Jack Perry out.
Be honest with
To
you,
an extent, his firing is just. But
I guess that's your opinion.
But you have to also see that. You also have to see this in it too, where Perry should have gotten fired too, if anything else. If you were going to fire Punk for that incident, Perry should have gotten fired too.
Yeah,
He
because he
should have
instigated it. But
never gotten the push that he got.
The fact is, I may disagree with the fact that Punk gotten fired, but then again, I will say this though: Punk getting fired was actually a blessing in disguise.
Yes. Oh, I very much agree with that. But it's just in a lot of ways. But it's also, this isn't just the only incident, I think, where Tony Khan really as a leader just fumbled it. Because I think he really fumbled the Andrade and Sammy Guevara stuff.
Let's not forget the media screaming.
There's sometimes based on the stuff that I've heard from it. That too.
I mean,
but there's many times where Tony does not take control of his company. And that really has impacted AEW in such a negative way.
It has. Mm-hmm. And
all right, let's keep this.
I'm not gonna lie when I say this, but I mean, initially, Tony Khan, for the time was actually good at what he did. He was behind the scenes doing what he did, just trying to make sure he has enough money and enough finance to help keep the company rolling. But the problem is, at this point, it's almost like last year was like WCW 2000 level. It was that bad under his leadership.
All right, Chayton, since we didn't give you an opportunity, since you kind of said Chayton, since you kind of said that Tony Khan's leadership was one of your reasons, I will count that as your number 3, so this will be your number 4.
Yeah, well, with me, it's like another thing that I feel like that's been a hindrance to them has been the tag team and the women's divisions. Like at one point, the tag team division was considered one of the best parts of AEW, and nowadays it's nothing to write home about.
Dude, since the beginning, can I just stop you right there real quick and let me say this?
Go ahead.
Ever since the very beginning of this damn company, their divisions of both the tag team and women's divisions are not that good. They're not showcased enough to actually be worth a damn, and they don't even, it's not really, nothing to write home about. I'm sorry, it's just not.
Like the one positive that has been the women's division, the Timeless Tony Storm storyline and the Mariah May thing. That was it. Like, who gives a shit about Mercedes Moné? Yes, she delivered some good matches as of late, but but she's been awful on the mic. The tag team division. The tag team champions right now, Private Party, where are they?
It took them 5 years to get those titles. Like, they couldn't have put them on them earlier before the pandemic or after the pandemic, but still, and here's the thing, it's what I've noticed, Jaden. Every freaking time they've had, the chance to showcase their tag team and women's division, they're mostly showcasing the singles wrestlers, whether they're part of a group, a faction, or a tag team, and they just really are not into it, like with the production of these tag teams and women's divisions. That's what I've seen.
Well, yeah, and it's like everybody was expecting.
Let me ask you.
Go ahead.
Ever since I stopped watching the product, has anything even changed?
Well, Private Party has not really been featured as of late, and it looks like they're going to be fed to the Hurt Syndicate. The most over team right now in AEW is the Outrunners, I think they're called. And originally, from my understanding, they were supposed to be the ones to beat the Young Bucks, but then Tony Khan put the kibosh on that, decided to give it to Private Party, who I'm sorry has been dead ever since they were a part of the Matt Hardy family thing, whatever the fuck it was called.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, and that was a flop. That was a flop. That was a big flop right there.
Yeah. And the women's division, like
and
again,
it's just
the women's division. I like Mariah May. I like Toni Storm. I like Chris Statlander. You know, but like I just none of it really interests me. The only thing that was really like it recently, the only thing I was really interested in was the little mini feud that they had with Mina Shirakawa and fucking Mariah May, because everybody loves Mina and everybody wants Mina. I want Mina, but like,
but here's the problem. I mean, like, they would be worth watching if they weren't if the booking and the producing focused a little bit on the equalism of all divisions.
Now I will say this though regarding the women. One of the people that I feel like Tony Khan and them have done a great job in booking, at least with her presentation, until she got injured and lost the title, was Julia Hart. I feel like she's been one of the one bright spots of AEW in the women's division. Like her entrance, her fucking presentation. Is she the greatest in the ring? No, but again, as I've said before, like it's all about presentation. It's not just about in ring work. LA Knight is not the biggest, is the greatest wrestler in the world, but he has charisma. He has aura about him. Like Julia Hart, I feel like has been one of those rare bright spots that AEW's done as of late. Also, I want to add this. It has nothing to do with the tag division or women's division, but I want to add this. I'm a big Danhausen guy. I know Danhausen's not everybody's cup of tea, but I love Danhausen. And look at like how they have treated him. We talked about not using. Now, granted, is Danhausen World Championship material? No, but that's another one that they have not really used properly. And I honestly think he would be better off leaving and going to WWE. I feel like his gimmick would work better in WWE than it does in AEW. But going back to the women and the tag team divisions, like FTR, hell, even if you add the trios titles, who gives a shit about the 6-man tag team titles? Who gives a shit about the Ring of Honor tag team titles? Like,
I'll get to that as another reason because I have a lot to get off my chest. Reason.
So, like, these people, like, these divisions, and the women's division has always never been, the tag divisions had their bright spots, but like you look at fucking like all the people that they never gave titles to, LAX, fucking, it took them 5 years to put the belts on Private Party. It's like who was like the first AEW tag team champions, if I'm not mistaken, were SCU, and I'm just gonna be honest here, who cares? Like I'll say this: one of the best tag team matches of AEW's history. Two of them actually. I will give them this: involved the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks versus Kenny Omega and Hangman Page, which was a makeshift team, and then the Young Bucks versus the Lucha Bros in a cage match. But maybe other matches like Swerve in Our Glory versus the Acclaim. That's another good one. But if you really think about it,
you know what? How about
if you really think about it, a bunch of AEW's tag teams are makeshift teams. Remember, Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega were a tag team before Kenny had to go away with diverticulitis. Fucking Big Bill and Ricky Starks, Omega and fucking Hangman Page, and of course one of the worst factions / tag teams in AEW history, the Dark Order. Like, these are all like,
Hey, did something happen?
Am I here? Can you all hear me?
I'm still here. My screen buffered along with his for some reason.
Yeah. The screen kind of went. Your screen kind of went in and out for a second, but I think we're all
Okay,
still
I
here.
was trying to say.
But I think a big point of it is.
Go ahead.
But I think the big point of it is, it's just at one point I thought AEW had a very marquee tag team division. Just because they at one point tag team wrestling seemed very, very pivotal for AEW, but we have gone a long ways since then. And it just kind of feels like now the tag team and women's divisions are just there and not there in a good way.
I was gonna say something which is kind of funny. I mean, before I got cut off, I was saying, what about Swerve and Swerve in our glory hole?
Well, they had a good match against the Acclaim, but again, AEW has had a lot of makeshift tag teams. Like I mentioned, Big Bill and Ricky Starks, Swerve in Our Glory, fucking, who was it? Oh, MJF and Adam Cole. Let's see, who else? Hangman Page and Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho. Trying to think of who else. The Trios division has been a fucking, like the Trios division has been a fucking joke. I don't understand why those belts, and I guess that'll be my final. I'll save this for my final topic regarding that. But yeah, it's just but the women's division as well. There's no like again the champions right now. Mariah May. Yes, I like Mariah May, but she has no buzz. Mercedes Moné has X-Pac heat. Who else? Uh, yeah, that's about it. I can't all the other women are pretty much not really I know fucking like I meant like Tony Storm. I know Eric Lima's a big Harley Cameron fan.
He's a big Tony Storm fan too.
Yeah, I know that too. I know, but it's just a lot of these women have nothing. Like again, NXT is killing it right now with their women's division with Julia, Stephanie Vaquer, and again AEW had Stephanie Vaquer, but she was like deuces and took the smarter payday with WWE. Jade Cargill, Jade Cargill was AEW's biggest homegrown star.
Yeah, she was,
and she left.
She still can't wrestle for shit.
But I'll say this.
But say what you will, but she was not only the biggest one, but also the most consistently booked homegrown.
And Jade Cargill, despite what anybody says about Jade Cargill's wrestling ability, despite anything, she has one thing that a lot of these women don't have, and that is superstar potential. Imagine if she could she has presence. She has superstar presence. Like again, if she could actually work in the ring, like goodbye to Charlotte, you fucking give all the belts to her because that's the only thing that's holding her back. And she doesn't even need to be a great wrestler. She just needs to be serviceable. And and she's had good matches. I'm not going to say Jade Cargill has not. She's had some good matches. Her match with Chris Statlander were good, but it's the point of, I want to see her in the ring with somebody that maybe can carry her, and seeing if that will help her in the long run. But again, AEW's biggest woman star, homegrown, I'm referring to, left the company and went to. That's another person you can add to the list of people who left AEW to WWE. Because she knows she can only get so high in AEW. With WWE, there's limitless possibilities and opportunities. And
I guess when you put it that way, I mean, it makes sense. But still, if she stayed in AEW, she could have been on top of the mountain as the AEW Women's World Champion, though.
Fair. Like Jade has a lot more competition in WWE.
Well, yeah, I do think eventually she probably would have had a Goldberg moment where she was still undefeated and
Dude,
able to hold
you
up
want to know
both
who
the
I
titles.
think
I do
should have?
think she probably could have had a Goldberg moment.
Do you think you know who I think should have stayed undefeated in AEW? And this is just my opinion. Hook. They had something going with this kid, and then they
Yeah.
down in seconds.
I'll say this though. I believe Jay Cargill's a better wrestler than Bill Goldberg.
Oh
At
come
least,
on!
at least, at least, at least she
Oh,
has.
that's
please.
not even close. Not even close. Goldberg is definitely not better than Cargill.
Jake,
Yeah, I mean,
tell me if Jay Cargill's injured anybody to the point where they had to retire.
oh come on! You gotta bring that. Oh my god! What are we gonna
Fuck Bill
do?
Goldberg.
What are we gonna do with this guy?
All right, let's keep this program going. Oh, Jordan, you're fourth.
Okay.
Jason.
Now, originally I was gonna say about Jack Perry, but I decided to change it up a notch because you just pretty much explained it during Tony Khan's, leadership and all that. The purchase and booking of ROH. Now, you're probably thinking, does this have anything to do with AEW? I mean, it's a different company and a different brand. Well, that is true, but here's the thing. It is a part. Tony Khan owns this branding and company just like AEW, and ever since he purchased it, it has gotten worse and worse. Hold on a second. There we go. The acquisition of ROH. There you go. Ever since, again, I'm just going to say this for the record. There were two outcomes that this could have happened for Ring of Honor. They could have swiftly and silently, went into the sunset and nobody would have thought anything different from them. Yes, the pandemic may have gotten them from not wanting to do the shows that they wanted to do like they were great at doing whenever they were on syndication with the Sinclair Broadcast Group. But still, they could have walked right into the sunset and they could have archived their whole footage and still kept their app, if you catch my drift. But then there was the other outcome that maybe they could have gotten purchased by, WWE. And yes, Vince McMahon, the evil tyrant that he was and still is because he, again, the court case is finally over with. I think, with this purchase, you think that would have been the end of ROH, that it could have, stayed alive through its app. Everybody could rewatch, a lot of history. Some of it may have been a little bit edited because of, copyright restrictions of certain musics and soundtracks. But this is where things get really, really bad. The fact that you have this other wrestling company that has been around longer than TNA, longer than WWE's branded name as World Wrestling Entertainment, and longer than the company that it's working with, All Elite Wrestling, it went from being a great independent major wrestling company to shit. Because Tony Khan, just like with the AEW leadership, has no idea how to book this particular company, because this company was not just about the storytelling, it was about the wrestling, the tradition, and everything that it used to stand for. It wasn't back in the day with Ring of Honor, it used to, be one of the greatest, indie companies of all time, and then it turned to a major wrestling company. It was like the spiritual successor of ECW, but here's the problem. This company only had little moments of being no disqualification from time to time, but it was never hardcore. It was all about pure wrestling. It was all about the honor, tradition, and respect. And they, again, with Tony Khan, when he purchased this, he acted like as if this isn't a Shane McMahon thing. I mean, I now own ROH. Yeah, you just had to bring up a McMahon on your television. Great job. Then, again, all their events, you can say whatever they want. I mean, for their pay-per-views, whether they're on the app, on the Honor Club app. But here's the problem. If you watch their current product of the current ROH on Honor Club TV, whatever you want to call it, I'm not going to lie. It is bad. I'm not going to say the matches suck, because how can I say they suck if it's under 3 minutes? Because that's what you need for a development. But that's what he wants to make this, a developmental show, which that was the whole point of the whole freaking company at the very beginning. But the way they're doing it, including Tony Khan, it is embarrassing. Like, you know how many matches they have in the 2-hour time slot? Nearly 12 to 13 matches. This is like AEW Dark level. And that is bad. And yet most of their pay-per-views or their streaming events that they do, they're actually a lot more better. But the TV ones that they do, it's horrible. I've even seen this before an AEW Collision show. And by the way, they even still had more matches for after Collision. And they were trying to keep us there until maybe until after it turned midnight. And I wasn't going to have that shit. So we had to leave
I can concur because when I went to a Collision show, first hour started with AEW or Ring of Honor, and after Collision was over, 2 more hours of Ring of Honor. I didn't stay for the main event.
I mean, and how can anybody stay for the main event? And the thing is, that's another thing about Ring of Honor. You said something about the titles. I'm going to say this right here. Stop promoting and having different titles on your own in television show. If it's not under the name AEW, do not book it in your show. Like, again, they don't even most of the time they don't even book most of their ROH titles on the 2-hour shows that they're producing every week. They could easily do that instead of this whole, freaking, let's book this match here so that way we'll have better time for them to be showcased, why people should watch ROH. No, you're supposed to let people decide whether or not they should watch it so that way they'll be invested with it. And plus, the fact that they're doing it before and after AEW television shows, that's not even doing it justice either. My personal opinion, they should do it in, like places like where it's smaller venues like they used to. Because ROH is not meant to be in bigger venues. Yes, they had a big venue of Madison Square Garden with NJPW on, G1 Supercard. But the difference is that was a collaboration and people were interested in it at the time. Nowadays, there is no way ROH could fill in an entire arena with that many people. There's just no way. Now, what they did recently with Final Battle, I'll admit, that was a smart decision. The Hammerstein Ballroom, or the Manhattan Center, whatever you want to call it. Or at least, yeah, it was the Hammerstein Ballroom. For Final Battle, they did something right, but still not enough. It's gotten to the point where the company that we got used to seeing on syndication and somewhat on pay-per-view that was like another alternative from the major wrestling companies, whether it was WWE or TNA at the time until they turned into Impact Wrestling, it's not what we love it, from the start anymore. It's gotten to a point where it's like, it's like cannon fodder at this point. I mean, I used to love watching this product.
I definitely do.
You go ahead.
Yeah, I definitely do agree that I in a lot of ways, it also didn't help matters that once Tony Khan acquired Ring of Honor was almost dead on arrival.
Yeah,
so
I
you have this company that
go ahead, man.
even though you have this company that even though it has this 20 at this point practically a 20-year legacy, but once you acquire it, because Sinclair basically was pretty much done with it, whether anybody really wants to admit it or not, Sinclair didn't have much plans for Ring of Honor going forward. So you have this company really that's dead on arrival, and then you try to combat that by basically having it be fodder for anything else, and not only fodder, but in a lot of ways, Ring of Honor is really just filler content. There's nothing about Ring of Honor that is cool, that makes me want to go out of my way. First of all, to have it set up on a subscription-based platform is absolutely stupid. because there's nothing done on AEW television that makes me want to go out of my way to pay $10 to watch Ring of Honor.
Here's the thing. I am a subscriber to it because I like watching the old school content. Okay? I mean, you can judge me or you can criticize me for that. I mean, I really don't care. I love watching the old school stuff, especially with the Sinclair era and all that. But another thing, and someone just pointed this out, Tony Khan bought it with no plan. Here's the thing. If you don't have a plan to do with a wrestling company that you've just purchased, what the are you doing? All you're doing is just making yourself look like an idiot. Like, here's the thing. Corey Selkin, I believe, wasn't that the guy, the name who once owned ROH before the acquisition from Sinclair Broadcast Group? That's the guy who was running Ring of Honor before the Sinclair era.
So I think he was one of the owners at one point.
Okay. I would have him do most of the booking for Ring of Honor instead of having the other wrestlers, and other producers do it. And do it at the smaller venues and stop having him tape before and after AEW shows. Nobody's going to stay for that long. You can't force anyone to stay for that long because people have to go to work. People have daily lives to do, and they need their sleep. I mean, I could go all day just by telling you how many things that people need to do in order to keep their daily lives afloat.
Mm-hmm.
Bottom line is,
but just not only that.
Go ahead.
But not only that, but just in a lot of ways, I think that in a lot of ways, there's nothing. The biggest thing is Ring of Honor really just kind of became a very light and diluted version of AEW.
You know what? I think I have to say this real quickly and say it's AEW Dark with just a different name.
Yeah, it really that.
Remember,
Ring of
I gotta
Honor
say this, Paige. Remember a long time ago when I was on your server on Discord, I was reacting to it. I was reacting to AEW Dark when they premiered on YouTube one time. I wanted to let's see what this is all about.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what we saw? We saw nearly 10 matches in under an hour or an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm telling you, the fact that Tony Khan is doing this to ROH just speaks volumes that he has no earthly idea what he's doing.
Yeah.
Just bottom line.
Tony Khan is a prime example of why a wrestling fan should not be in charge of a company.
Pretty much.
That is.
But then again, hold on. Here's the thing.
Unfortunately, the truth.
Here's the thing. Most of us, the thing is with all of us, we're all wrestling fans at heart. And if we own a wrestling company, here's the thing. We can't just think like if we're just a fan. We need to think as a businessman and how a story should be done with bookings. That's the problem with Tony Khan. He keeps you. He's more of a fan than he is an owner and a booker. And by the way, he can go himself for what he said about Jim Crockett and all that, because he said that he has more money than Jim Crockett back in the day. And I'm like, in my head, dude, if it wasn't for guys like Jim Crockett, you wouldn't even be in this business. So shut the f up. And the journalists will make excuses. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we are now near the end of the road. My fifth reason was already talked about, and that was the airing of the all-in footage. So I will digress, and I will give Chayton his final number 5.
Well, like with me, it's probably not like a big reason, if I'm being honest, but another reason why is that there's too many goddamn titles. There's too many titles.
I agree.
Like,
And we're not just talking for the women per se. We're talking about the men in general.
You've got 2 sets of tag team titles. You've got 2 sets of 6-man tag team titles. You've got 2 sets of
No.
3 sets.
No. ROH, no. Don't count the ROH titles.
Well, they owns ROH. I'm adding that too because ROH titles are defended on AEW AEW TV except for Athena because they don't give a fuck all about Athena. Fuck them.
They're racist.
They got 4 women. Well, they got 4 women's titles. They've got 3
They don't
mid
want
card.
anything to do with the Nubian queen.
They've got 3 mid card titles. They've got literally they've got that. They've got, of course, a world title. They've got 2 world champions, and again, you could say not to count Ring of Honor, but again, who's on AEW television every week? Hi guys.
Yeah, he is.
And he's the Ring of Honor World Champion. He's defended the Ring of Honor World Champion on AEW TV. So that's the reason why I'm counted. Like I said, the only titles that have not been defended on Ring of Honor TV or on AEW TV is the women's title and the women's television. Oh yeah, and then the television title. Who's even the television? Or wait, didn't they retire? Or I don't know. Who's the? Oh yeah, and then the Pure Championship too. I forget who are the champions there too, because again, I don't give a fuck about Ring of Honor. We're the Pure Champion and the TV Champion.
You're not the only one.
Yeah, so like basically they have too many titles and it's hard to keep up because again, I don't know who are the tag team or I don't know who are I know Athena's women's champion and Jericho's the champion. I don't know who the Pure or the television champion is. I don't know what title is more important in the mid card. Is it the Continental? Is it the International? Is it the TNT title? Even though Mariah May is the women's world champion, they make Mercedes as the de facto top champion, even though the TBS title is the secondary title. I'm shocked they haven't added a women's tag titles at this point. Now, the argument could also go with WWE because, well, yeah, the argument could also go with WWE because they just added 2 mid card women's titles. So the argument can go to WWE too, but the jury's still out on the US and the Intercontinental titles because they were just made. To be fair with that, but yeah, it's 2 main titles, and it's like you don't know which title is the most prestige outside the world title, and and there's no consistency with the titles. And what I mean by that is, again, most of the time the Ring of Honor title is defended on AEW television.
More than the actual AEW world title. Huh?
Yes. And
that's pathetic though,
Yes, and you don't see any AEW titles defended in Ring of Honor. Again, I could be wrong because I don't keep up with Ring of Honor's product, but
you don't.
AEW, the tag team titles have been defended on Collision. Let's see what else. Like I said, the only title that has been for Samoa Joe had 2 belts because he was the king of television for a bit. Before Jericho was the king of New York, Samoa Joe was the king of television.
To be honest with you,
I will say though,
wait, on NXT has a bunch of women coming up. Oh.
That too. I was gonna say one other person I feel like they've done good by is Samoa Joe. Because Joe was a world champ. He was Ring of Honor TV. He was the AEW World Champion.
Can I say this about Samoa Joe real quick?
Go ahead.
I think the man should have had a year-long run with that belt because, the dude never had a chance to have a year-long run with the TNA title or the NXT title. Hell, he never even had a chance to win a WWE or Universal title because Vince McMahon just, again, likes to judge people for their size and shape rather than their talent in the ring. And again, I think that was a perfect opportunity wasted to have Samoa Joe to be a year-long champion and showcase that Joe is gonna kill you, that kind of deal.
Well, and the
Well,
reason why
I
Joe.
do think that
Go ahead.
I do think that I do think Joe possibly, if Swerve didn't rise as fast as he did,
I was gonna say
Joe
that.
would have
Yep.
had a much longer run with the belt.
Here's the
Plus,
thing.
Joe
Swerve's
already had a
run,
longer reign as
Swerve.
the. Oh, go ahead.
What?
If Swerve didn't gain the momentum that he got as well as he did, Joe probably would have held the belt longer.
Fair point, but here's
But
the
I
thing.
also do think that Joe's reign. I also do think that deep down, in a lot of ways,
okay,
there was some transitional meant to be in Joe's reign. But I do think that if Swerve didn't rise as fast as he did, and if the Hangman Swerve feud wasn't surrounding Joe, Joe would have had a much longer run with the belt.
I agree. But then again, not everybody gets what they want in regards to certain people having a rise. Like look at Joe Hendry. He was supposed to win the TNA title at Bound for Glory, and look how that ended up. And thank God it wasn't the main event, because that would have caused massive, people to be like, "What the," But with Joe, I think they could have done something better with him in AEW, and just have that 1 year reign. And yes, of course, he's going to film Twisted Metal, but here's the thing: you could always, do things, like at the same time, because I think The Rock had to do that too when he was freaking, still working with WWF during his first run, back before he was being the Hollywood guy, But yeah, I kind of agree. Now, here's the thing with ROH. I did say, again, I didn't say this about ROH going downward because of their titles. I mean, their titles are prestigious because they made them look prestigious for them to be showcased both on television and pay-per-view. But for AEW, the thing is with their belts, it's almost like WCW or WWF when it came back during the 90s and early new millennium, like 2000s.
Look at it this way: the AEW title is so meaningless now that it's carried around in a briefcase.
Yeah.
And that is one of the best looking belts out there. I will always say that, to me, it was that and the IWGP title before they bastardized that belt.
Yeah, but you know how it is with today's generation.
Mm-hmm.
We get we get disappointment after disappointment.
Yeah. But as we near I think Jordan, I think this is the last one. This last one's yours.
Yeah, right. It is. This is one. Now it's kind of similar to what you talked about of Tony Khan's leadership, but it's a little bit different topic altogether. Tony Khan's booking and oversized talent roster. I'm okay. I don't mind if you're giving someone an opportunity to be on, television or be with your company because they have no place of work. But if you're just going to, have them just there just for filler or be backstage and catering or whatever, then you're pretty much wasting, the person's time when they want to actually be in the ring to wrestle, or rather just, try to help the product. Let's face it. I remember this one time when we were interviewing Melina, on Ranniversary 4, I believe. It was, again, I even told her that the AEW had its roster stemmed up, its wrestling roster stemmed up to almost over 100 people, both male and female combined. And and I think she was even, surprised to hear that too, because I don't think she's heard of a wrestling company to have that many people in one company in a wrestling roster, because that's damn near impossible. See, with the brand extension with WWE, you can understand because, again, why would you have that so many people in one roster and if you can't book them all in one night? Make it make sense. So with this, ever since AEW started, when they first started, they actually had a decent roster with the signings they had in the beginning. But with Tony Khan, every time he has a chance to make someone a star, he just drops the ball with them, like you said earlier. And then wait, that was not Ranniversary 4. Oh, it was the 200th episode. Okay, thank you, Brandon, for correcting me on that. See, folks, just so we're clear, my memory isn't always as great as it used to be, but at least I got friends to help me out and remind me of certain dates and certain moments. Now, yeah, thank you again to Brandon Martin. It was episode 200. I mean, well, we were reaching our 4th anniversary that year, but still, thank you nonetheless. Then there was the fact that we're having to see certain people come up. You remember when they were first introducing Jay Lethal to the company? They were like, he was just jumping for, like, it was almost as if they were, like, remember, we thought like, okay, he's from ROH, we could use him, he's a big deal. I mean, but here's the problem. They're not utilizing him as you think they would do, like when ROH had him, or TNA for that matter. I mean, look at Jay Lethal now. He's basically with Jeff Jarrett 24/7. And then there's also the fact where we like the aforementioned Ricochet. Like, he's not even a big deal when signing him. In fact, he's like nothing. So they've got too many people that are utilized stars, but not utilizing them as they should. And then and this is also regarding the booking. Like, most of these pay-per-views that he has with AEW, too many freaking matches, yet over 4 hours long each pay-per-view they do. Back in the day, we used to have 3 hour long.
That's if you're lucky. That's if you're lucky. It's just 4 hours.
Or then again, it's Friday the 13th, and you're unlucky. What I'm saying is like, back in the day, we used to have pay-per-views from these wrestling companies that were under 3 hours, like maybe 2 hour and 50 minutes long per se. And they have, matches, that were booked on the card, and they have a whole show waiting for us until the main event. And we got what we were waiting for, just to see the filler, the certain storylines we were interested that caught our attention. And then we waited for the main event, and then there we go. It was all done in one spot, 3 hours, no extended time, no bullshit. But instead, with AEW, ever since its very foundation, and I'm sure you guys can agree with me on this, they have produced longer pay-per-views each year than WWE has done in WrestleMania pay-per-view. Like, WrestleMania.
Yeah, and not only that, but it doesn't help that these pay-per-views are like 10, 12 matches on the card.
Remember, I just got through talking about
so many pay-per-view matches on the card.
Remember when I just got through talking about ROH and then AEW Dark having nearly 10 to 12 matches in under like an hour and a half or 2 hour limit period? That's embarrassing. But the fact that you have 10 to 11 matches under 4 hours, what are you thinking? Like, it is just really,
it's not good.
Stretching it at this point. Like,
but not only that, but also it kind of goes back to some of the problems that we stated earlier with AEW, with the fact that these pay-per-views are going too long and these matches go on for too long, and it's just it's overkill. Because most times there are times when I've sat through an AEW pay-per-view, and by the time the main event comes, I was just exhausted.
Dude,
because
every time I reacted to an AEW
pay-per-view
event, every time I reacted to a pay-per-view event, like on my channel, I felt like I was about to fall asleep. You know, like, I mean, I'm not saying it bored me to death. I'm saying, like, the event is too damn long. Like, freaking Eric, I think, Lima, my friend, I think he's fallen asleep before during, an AEW pay-per-view.
Yeah,
I
do you
mean,
think like
It's possible.
I was gonna say like my girl and I we like she's not like a big wrestler fan. She's more I would say maybe a semi casual. She'll watch it. Like we watched the Raw premiere on Netflix, right? And
what
she
did you
liked
think
it.
of it?
I think she liked it. She liked Saturday Night's Main Event. I think she's not telling me no, so I think she's driving, so she's focusing. Anywho,
Just wait till it comes to San Antonio. By the way, I think there's a taping for that for TNA Impact. I
oh yeah.
believe on the same day.
My
Is it?
girl said the only thing she did not like about the Raw thing was if she felt like it was overshadowed by all the booing Hogan got.
Uh,
That was something people were talking about a lot more than anything else.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And like which I can concur to that. And I'm still a Hogan mark. I will always save the date whenever he's on a podcast because I cannot wait. He is like how we've been into YouTube drama stuff over the years. Hogan is like my personal YouTube drama because I cannot wait for whatever lie he's about to spew out of his mouth and add it because my girl didn't know nothing about Hogan's lies. And I told her, I said, yeah, I read down I didn't tell her every lie, but I told her the best ones. And so it's funny with that. But my point is, though, is that, you know, uh, I've shown her some AEW clips. Like she likes, as she's called him, Skeleton Boy, Darby Allin. She likes seeing him basically.
Skeleton Boy.
She likes seeing him freaking get tossed around like a rag doll. She likes some of the,
Your
but
girl,
I dare.
wait, she likes seeing him tossed around like a rag doll, then that makes her a sadist.
She's laughing when he said it. But she's like I just like watching Skeleton Boy get murdered.
Skeleton Boy get murdered.
Um, but my
Get
point is,
murdered.
um, like with all that is that I don't think we could survive a full on AEW pay per view. Not
No,
counting the pre show.
no.
We're just counting the show itself. Like I don't think because
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Because even with
You know,
my girlfriend, um, sitting through an AEW pay per view, it's much. It is a lot.
it's too much, yeah.
like like my,
Here's the thing. I'll give Raw and SmackDown credit. Like, yes, they're 3 hours right now, but here's the thing. At least they are minimizing certain aspects to their shows and not overdoing it with too many matches in one.
well, and also with the pay per views, the WWE pay per views, they have like Triple H has a fucking like what a 5 to 6 match card usually on each show, and he's usually able to give them time and all that stuff, and it doesn't overstay its welcome. That's something I like about the pay per views. Now granted, we're gonna be heading into an era in the next few years where the Royal Rumble. SummerSlam's going to be 2 nights, but we're going to get the Royal Rumble. We're going to get Survivor Series. We're going to even get Money in the Bank. We're going to get those as 2-night events, So, but still, even with the 2 nights, like I will even say this: WrestleMania 40, even with the 2 nights, still didn't feel long. I am someone who likes the 2-night format.
As shocking as this may sound, when I was reacting to it on my channel for WrestleMania 40, it didn't feel that long to me either. I mean, the only thing that felt long was the main events.
Yeah,
which is
yeah,
good because
but other than that, but a main event. But a main event running overtime, especially for a big marquee match, I don't have problems with. I think it's more so when you have a mid card match or other matches that don't seem to mean as much importance. When they run overtime, it makes events feel like a drag.
And here's the other thing, and even though I loved Ring of Honor from back in the day, Ring of Honor was at fault, was the kind of the originator of this. The biggest problem with AEW is every fucking match has you hit so many damn finishers, to the point where it gets laughable by the time the match ends. Like I remember, you remember the Kyle Fletcher Will Ospreay match when he did that tombstone pile driver on the steel steps. That would not only be a match ender, but that would be a fucking that could be.
What about the match between Kenny Omega and Konosuke Takeshita?
What happened there? I can't remember.
They pretty much did false finish after false finish after false finish.
Yeah, but what I was saying about the reason why I bring up Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher, that tombstone onto from the apron to the steps is not only a match ender, but in some cases that would be considered a injury angle that someone should be out for months over. Remember when Kane used to get someone up and do the tombstone pile driver on the freaking steel steps, and they'd be out for a few weeks or a few months?
Yeah.
Like that should have been so it was stupid. Not only, and again, I know not everybody loves Jim Cornette, but Jim Cornette had every right to tear that finish apart. Yeah.
Oh damn, mother! I can't stand watching this bullshit. I'm gonna see if
Thank you.
I'm gonna check on like if that. I mean, I did react to this,
but yeah, but
sorry,
but yeah, I think we'll be. No, you're good, but I think we'll kind of be wrapping this up a little bit. But I do think in one of the ways, I do think in a lot of ways that there's the booking part of it. It's the booking is so all over the place that, because I remember in the first kind of when AEW really first kind of started, you really had to have been watching not only Dynamite and Dark, but you had to also in some ways watch Being the Elite.
Yes.
To have some greater understanding of some things. We're not in that era now, but it feels like in a lot of ways we still have to kind of keep up with AEW every 5 minutes if we want to.
You know what's funny?
What's going on?
AEW is like the MCU, where you have to watch every bit of content, not just in the movies, but in the TV and all that stuff, to even know what's going on. Again, Captain America 4 is coming out in next month, and some people may not know that we have a new Captain America because they didn't watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier. People may not get certain references from fucking Deadpool and Wolverine because they didn't watch Loki season 1. So it's like these AEW has been like that since the beginning, and I'm sorry, like I never really watched Dark. If there was a good match that someone recommended me, I'll go watch it. But it's like Ring of Honor. I don't really watch Ring of Honor anymore. But if someone tells me, hey, there was a pretty decent match on Ring of Honor television, I don't even watch SmackDown and WWE or Raw or NXT live. I watch the Raw. Like I may go on and watch more Raw. On fucking Mondays because I have Netflix, and even Dynamite I plan on getting Max, so I may watch it just because I'm like, well, I'm paying the fucking however much a month, might as well watch it, get my money's worth with it, but it's just a whole case in point where I just skim through stuff because again it's like here's why. Go ahead.
Yeah, that was it. That was the match I'm referring to. Konosuke Takeshita.
But not only that, but it's also just, but not only that, but just in a lot of ways, and this is kind of like, and this in a lot of ways also kind of hinders me from watching WWE to a great extent anyways. If I can spend about 5 or 10 minutes just kind of watching the highlights of what happened during a program versus me sitting through 3 hours.
Yeah. Even watching just the cliff notes on YouTube, like the little clip.
Well, here's the thing: if you were to watch,
because most of the time that's really how
I think what you're referring to is like you're watching it by yourself. I think what you should do, like, and this is my personal opinion, you can take it for how you will. I think if you watch it with someone, like say when we do the Raw live reactions every Monday on Brand's channel, it's good to watch with a friend than watching it by yourself, so you can react to what's going on, and then you won't get bored with it because you'll get entertainment from both ends, one from the television and the other from your computer screen with the few buds that you're, joking around and busting balls with.
Open the trunk, my love.
Why to put a dead body?
Well,
in
yeah,
there?
it's like okay. I find more enjoyment watching I like watching the wrestle on my girl, for example. And she's not like a big wrestling fan. She may know some of the people, but she doesn't know
Yeah,
everybody.
yeah.
And
What I'm saying is like with him, like whether him and his girlfriend watch wrestling or not, like if he can't watch it for 3 hours, then at least he should watch it with people that he knows that he'll have a good time with.
hell, even like my only issue is the time zone. So some of them maybe get spoiled for me because time zones are different.
But yeah, I'm gonna say this real
Yeah,
quickly because
that's another.
Oh, go ahead, Paige.
Well, no. Go ahead and say what you're gonna say so we can get ready to close
One
out.
dropped.
Yes.
Yeah, because we're about almost 14 minutes away before we hit the 3 hour mark, but that would be a pretty good thing because I mean 3
Yeah,
hours.
We're an episode of Monday Night Raw.
At least we're doing something. I mean, if we were doing this for 3 hours, at least we're doing something, right? I mean, we've had some decent viewers, I mean, that's not bad. I think this is a good comeback page. But I want
Phone is back to being low because I just got out of the car. So
I want to say this real quickly.
I'll just say this.
I want to say this real quickly so I can end my reason right here.
Okay, go ahead.
At the end of the day, Tony Khan needs to realize that, one, the way how he's booking all these people is not doing so well for both, finance and for payment. And plus having a second show that's also 2 hours like on Saturday television, it's not even helping makers either. Even if you have a new show called Shockwave that's going to be coming soon, I mean, it doesn't change the fact that it's still a system that's broken and it needs to be fixed. I mean, I usually say if it's not broke, don't fix it. Well, let me tell you, it is broke and it needs fixing. I'm not saying I could do a better job of it. I'm just saying it needs to be fixed, whether it's up to me or not. That's just how I see it.
Oh,
And that is nothing but the truth. I think all of us for this video, we all come from a point where we want AEW to succeed. Because when wrestling companies succeed, the more overall it helps the wrestling business. And when we have multiple wrestling companies that are succeeding and thriving, that makes the business better, not only for us, the fans, but it makes it better for the wrestlers themselves. And it helps wrestling, the industry as a whole. So in a lot of ways, I'm going to say this. I don't hate what AEW believes in. I don't hate what AEW stands for. Don't hate it. I hate the direction that it's gone into. Absolutely. But I don't
hating it in general is a whole
AEW fundamentally for what believes. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't hate
this
AEW.
video in a lot of ways, it was made not to.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And yeah, like this video was made not so much to kind of completely bash on AEW every way. It's so AEW can get better. This is constructive criticism from very much from the fans' perspective of the product.
And this is coming from fans who actually love the industry as a whole, not just towards one company. I mean, sure, me and my buds cover a lot of WWE stuff, but that's because they're doing a lot right with their company. And sure, they'll do some wrong, we'll call it out, but that doesn't mean we're gonna and besides, we're not even ignoring AEW either. We're just, we're covering everything. I just think that, again, if Tony Khan, along with other people, could just get off, their high horse and realize that they need to do better and more good with this company, with not just, the shows, but with its roster and the fans in general, it could probably succeed at being a better company than, I don't know, maybe WCW could have been had it not died in 2000 and 2001. But
Oh,
we'll never
absolutely,
know.
absolutely. But you know, but
Hey,
time will tell to see
that this guy right here.
Jonathan Hanna. Yeah, it's been a minute. I'm sorry that you
What's up,
kind of came
Jonathan?
in
How you
at the
doing,
rear
man?
end
Dragon Ball.
at the rear. Sorry that you kind of came in at
I
the
love
rear
that guy.
end of this. I'm but you're definitely this is definitely in a lot of ways this is definitely not the end of seeing me around. I'm gonna say I'll be around for a little bit. But I'm gonna be around as much as I can. Right now, I'm kind of set to return in I talked about this a little bit earlier, but we're set to return the official season 3 will take place this April. So keep your eyes out for that. As always, check out Rant and Rave Podcast. And also check out Show Jordy, J Man's Legit, Jordy Scout. You can check him. He's everywhere on YouTube and on Facebook. Check him out. One and only House of Chayton. He's not as active at one point, but he does do some stuff. Check him out. He does do I think it's called the Dorks. I want to say it's the Dorks podcast on House of Rebellion.
Yeah.
Check that out. Great content.
Network 3000 is where you'll find me. That's where I
until
post
then,
most of my content
this is
nowadays.
kind of Oh yeah, good old David 3000. Good old David 3000.
No,
Shout out
it's
to
not
our
3000,
favorite
man.
butt buddy of YouTube Cloud. But anyways, well, David 3000 Network, whatever it is now at this point, he's changed his name so much.
Buddy,
In just a short amount of time. But we are signing off right. But we are signing off right now for Jordy for J Man's Legit and House Chayton. This is Paige Shaw. With love, everybody. Peace out. Paige Shaw. Take care.